Wendy, can you tell me what happened?
I woke up and I heard it. It was screaming.
I need your help. Get something and bring it to me. An egg.
I think we need to think about what's gonna happen if this whole thing goes to hell. I'm worried. I mean, if we did this wrong, best case, we got a bunch of AIs running around thinking that they're human. Worst case, we killed 6 kids.
Do you hear that? They're talking to me.
When a hostile alien species decides to speak, one needs to ask why.
They're experiments, Dan.
That's what we do. We study.
Like you study us.
A world of infinite potential.
There's a feeling you get when the monsters come. Maybe you're feeling it now.
She's just a kid.
Keep telling yourself that. They shouldn't be here. Species from other worlds. Millions of years old. Killers.
Collision imminent. Collision imminent. Collision imminent. 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 Imminent.
Feels good, doesn't it? Being more than human. But there's a price. Do you know what it is?
Something's here.
It's getting close. Save yourself.
And welcome all to another Alien Aftershow live discussion. And here we are, folks, fresh off the heels of episode 4. And I thought it was a pretty decent episode overall. I mean, some things stood out as great. Some things stood out as could have been a little bit better. But overall, did enjoy the episode. I'm enjoying the series for the most part. I mean, again, there's small things here and there for as a diehard Alien fan that you kind of notice, but as a general viewing experience, Alien Earth has been pretty fun so far, and the production quality has been just top notch. Everything looks super well. And tonight's episode was a pretty highly anticipated episode, at least for us. I mean, we read a lot of the early reviews that were coming out before the series began, and a lot of them talked about episode 4 being the big episode, the episode where something big happens. And I'm left to wonder, did they maybe forget how to count? Did they think 4 was 5, or like what's going on here? Because it was a good episode, and I think I get a feeling as to what I think they might be alluding to, but it certainly didn't live up to the hype that I saw all of the early reviews claiming it to be. But it was still good. It was still an interesting reveal, and it certainly is something a little bit different than we've seen before. Certainly not a normal little baby xenomorph. This thing is a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. But yeah, I mean, in terms of all of the hype that was surrounding episode 4, where, we heard a lot of rumors about this being the really big episode. I didn't get that feeling, at the very least. It felt like just another regular episode, a good episode, but just a regular episode. But either way, had fun watching it. Definitely looking forward to diving into it and discussing it with each and every one of you.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. I was thinking, oh my God, I love the episode, right? I like getting to know the characters more. I
Yes.
like seeing them interact. But then I remember what you said, right? Everybody was saying that this episode was going to change everything from here on. It's like a different sort of way, direction that the show would be moving in. And when you think about it that way, it wasn't that groundbreaking.
Mm-mm.
It really wasn't. I understand that she's now communicating with the Cinemorph, and so maybe they're referring to that, but we knew that,
Yeah.
right? I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of us deducted that that's what was happening in episode 3. So we kind of knew that. It wasn't super surprising that she was able to communicate with them. Um, I think maybe they meant 5. Maybe there's gonna be like
Maybe.
something with the communication. Maybe they meant 5 and they just messed up and said 4.
Yeah.
Because what's interesting is, what are you going to do now? Now
Yes.
you have the baby Cinemorph out. You can communicate with it. You feel chosen. She says, they chose me.
Yeah.
What happens now? That's
Mm.
interesting.
Yeah, very good point. Where do we go from here? I get in the sense where this episode was a little bit of a catalyst in terms of how the next, few episodes are going to go. But yeah, definitely didn't get that big grandiose feeling that some of the earlier reviewers hyped episode 4 up to be. But again, still an interesting episode. We learned a little bit more about Wendy and her communicating with the xenomorph species, and we learned that it was only the xenomorph species that she seems to be able to communicate with. That was one thing I was wondering heading into this episode. Is it just the xenomorph species that she is tuning into, i.e. facehuggers, baby xenos, regular xenos, or could she potentially be tapping into some of these other species as well? And we do hear Kirsch mention in this episode that it's just the xenomorph species. So that's an interesting. Why just the xenomorph species? Why only this one? How come? And why only Wendy? Why none of the other hybrids or any of the other synthetics? It was interesting seeing them try to ask her to replicate the sound. I thought was a really good scene. I really, really enjoyed that scene where you just see her sitting there trying to replicate, for human ears, what she was hearing, the kinds of sounds she was hearing. And it sounded super creepy, super alien-like. I like that scene for some reason. But overall, what you mentioned earlier, one thing that I really did enjoy is we're learning a little bit more about the characters finally, and in particular, the other hybrids. And we're seeing one hybrid in particular is definitely going down a very dangerous road, as it appears. And we talked a little bit about this last week. We had a feeling this was where Nibs's storyline was heading. She seemed to be showing signs very early on of cracking under the pressure, whether it was the trauma from her encounter with the alien that almost ripped her face off, whether something went wrong with her upload, or whether it's just some kind of other hybrid psychosis that is being induced. She definitely seems to be deteriorating, and she seems to be getting worse very, very fast. And this episode was a very clear indication that she is she's going to be one of the ones to watch, I think, over these next few episodes. I feel like she is just a hair trigger away from snapping and really hurting someone. And I think that's actually something she will be doing at some point in one of these episodes. Because when we look at the trailers for Alien Earth before the season started, there's one trailer of Nibs. Seemingly, you can't see who she's on top of, but seemingly on top of someone or something, and kind of like almost ripping it apart as you see a bunch of blood spray into her face. So at some point, she is going to get violent with someone or something. So I get the feeling we're only seeing the beginning of Nibs's downward spiral, as we learn in this episode that she seems to think that she is pregnant. of all things. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch her character. And again, I like how they're peeling back some of the storylines for some of these other hybrids, and we're getting better character development from some of the secondary characters. But Nibs' storyline is incredibly intriguing to see where this is going to go, but I don't think it's going to end well.
No, no, it's not. And what's interesting is that it seems like the hybrids don't know how powerful they are, how strong
Yes.
they are.
Don't
They
know their own
really
strength.
don't know much,
Yeah.
right? They don't know much about the equipment that they now possess as a body. Not only does she
Yeah.
seem to not measure her strength, but you even hear slightly when he's being asked to do things, he's like, there's guards and there's only one of me, and they're big. He doesn't realize that
Exactly.
he is so strong that he could probably take on the whole building, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like that when they take Nibs to her room, unlike the institute, right? Unlike the institute, which no comparison, they do have a backup plan for when the hybrids, or no, these are
Yes.
not hybrids, the children.
Yeah.
They have a backup plan for the children. If they become violent or if they cannot be controlled, they can be locked down.
Yeah.
And she tells her, like, go to your room, let's have some tea. She tries to appease her, but then immediately says, like, take her to her room and lock her down. So I'm happy to see that they do have some sort of like security measure that could keep them
Mhm.
safe.
Yeah.
The whole pregnancy, that was so crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Very
I
much.
imagine anything, right? Like, the show is really good. It's surprising. It's really
Mhm.
surprising because you don't think about Peter Pan having anything to do with Alien Earth. And then this pregnancy, she believes that she has been chosen. She is going through psychosis and believes that she is pregnant, came out of nowhere. This
Yeah.
totally came out of nowhere.
Yeah. The pregnancy thing came out of nowhere. That did come out of left field. Like I was not anticipating that. I was definitely anticipating to see her continue to decline. I mean, because we saw all the signs. Like, we had a feeling that she was going to be the first to kind of go off the deep end. But the pregnancy thing, yeah, that came out of left field. I was definitely not expecting that of all things, especially as you mentioned, bringing up the kind of religious angle, the whole kind of immaculate conception, where she's very much, even though she's a child, she's very much self-aware of what it takes to make a baby, but she's also aware of the story of Jesus, this immaculate conception, and she seems to think that is happening to her now. So yeah, very much some kind of hybrid-induced psychosis is happening with Nibs. What is the cause of it still remains to be seen. Again, is it just residual trauma from a 12-year-old mind trying to come to terms with the fact that a alien almost ripped her face off? Or is it a little bit more than that? Did something potentially go wrong with her programming, with her upload? Or is this simply just the first sign of one of many unforeseen side effects that is going to be happening throughout this hybrid process? I mean, at the end of the day, this is still they're in the very early stages of a very much proprietary technology that they're working with. These are prototypes at the end of the day. And there's always kinks and bugs and stuff to iron out whenever you have a prototype. That's why you create a prototype. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to start seeing maybe other things happen with some of the other hybrids, that there are some unforeseen long-term side effects that they just simply didn't anticipate. Maybe this is one of them. There has to be a reason why this hybrid technology doesn't go on to kind of last later on in the Alien franchise. And
Mhm.
if they're going to be kind of respecting canon even a little bit, and I know Noah Hawley has stated that he's not going super crazy with honoring the canon, which is unfortunate. But at the end of the day, I have to imagine this hybrid technology might be done and destroyed by the time this whole series ends. And this could be the beginning of this happening to maybe the rest of them. I kind of almost liken it to Foundation and what we're seeing in season 3 of Foundation with the Cleons, how their minds are starting to deteriorate faster and faster and faster. The model is starting to break down. I'm starting to think that maybe something similar could be happening here with the hybrids, that this was an unforeseen side effect of trying to put a human mind into a mechanical body, maybe kind of as like a body will reject a
Mm.
transplant. You know, people need transplants all the time, whether it's a liver, a lung, kidney, whatever the case may be. But the host body doesn't always take to the new transplant. Sometimes the body rejects it. What if we're seeing something similar here where the mechanical mind, the mechanical body is rejecting the human mind that was uploaded into it, creating some kind of psychosis?
Mm. Well, I really like that you mentioned foundation and the connection there between the two, right?
Mhm.
It's a great point. If this didn't work, then this would be Nibs would be a perfect reasoning as to why it didn't work.
Yeah.
She is violent. You can't make sense of what she's saying. She refused to listen to anything that the doctor had to say. And
Mhm.
so when it comes to that, they are so powerful that really, if they make up their mind that something is the way it is, like it just is so, right?
Yeah. They're
One
children.
thing that we have, yeah, they're children, but worst because they're
Were
very powerful, strong
yeah,
children.
weapons. Yeah.
Um, it was very disturbing to see her go through names. She has thought of names if it's going to be a girl or a boy.
Yeah.
And that's just so disturbing as she's holding this teddy bear. She's holding the teddy bear, thinking about the names, and she's patting the teddy bear as if it were a baby. Very disturbing.
Mhm.
I'd like that they showed Kirsch and the way that his memory works. And to me, it would appear that the synthetics have the same sort of ability. When Kirsch thinks about his memories or what has happened, it's a recording. He can zoom in on the details. He could remember everything perfectly. And that makes sense. If you're, a synthetic, you're going to have a
Yeah.
supercomputer for a mind.
Yeah.
That could be when I saw that, I thought that could be what's affecting Nibs so deeply.
Mhm.
I mean, as humans, we go through traumatizing things, and our memory, we will mark that as a traumatizing event.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, our mind will block the memory completely because it's trying to protect us. But she can't
Yeah.
do that. So
Mhm.
anytime that it's brought up, she has a video of every single thing that happened playing in her head. That could
Yeah.
be even more traumatizing. It's not just a memory, like she has video of every detail, how everything happened. It's very
Reliving it.
vivid. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good point. I mean, because like you'd think it would be traumatizing in and of itself, just having that happen once and having the memory of it. But like you said, she has a little bit more than just a memory of it. She can literally relive it over and over and over and over again, down to the little most minute detail, because it's all recorded. So that's a really good point. I mean, how do we know she's not accessing this over and over and over again, maybe even unaware that she's even doing it on purpose, maybe subconsciously? Again, how exactly does a human mind interact with a mechanical body at the end of the day? Well, how does it kind of reconcile itself? But no, I think that's a very interesting idea that you bring up, that she's potentially reliving her trauma over and over and over again. It's not just the memory of it, it's literally reliving it, maybe making her kind of decline that much faster, that much steeper. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, Nibs is becoming psychotic. She is. I mean, this hybrid psychosis, as I like to call it, definitely seems to be setting into Nibs. And again, we kind of saw some of the earlier signs at the beginning of the season, but getting a lot worse now. And like you said, they don't know their own strength. They have no idea how powerful they are. You're 100% right. One of these simps could take down a whole building worth of humans single-handedly. They're incredibly powerful, incredibly durable, and she clearly does not know her own strength. I mean, that one scene when she gets up super fast and kind of hops on top of the doctor, it almost seemed involuntary, like she didn't even realize she was doing, or didn't even choose to do it. It was just kind of a reaction. And that can be very dangerous if they can't get control of their impulses, if they can just quickly react and go off the handle when they see certain things that maybe trigger them. Yeah, this is going to become incredibly dangerous. And I love how you brought up the difference between this and the Institute, and how much what more well thought out Alien Earth is compared to the Institute. It's night and day compared to comparing these two shows.
Mm.
Um, But that was one thing that frustrated both of us, where they certainly did not have enough kind of protocols and contingencies in place to contain these children on the institute if they were to get out. That the security was incredibly lax, incredibly unimpressive, incredibly easy to beat. But here we're seeing that they have redundancy on top of redundancy on top of redundancy. Like they have thought about every single little possible possibility. Whereas if these things do fly off the handle, if they do become dangerous, we already have protocols in place. So I love how you brought that up and the difference between that and the institute.
Yeah, I mean, you would think so. The institute has all of these powerful children, and yet they don't know how to um, contain them, even though they're torturing the children. Here, we see that the children kind of like it. When Slightly is talking about rebelling and
Mhm.
asking to see their family, some of them say, "I like it here. They treat
Yeah,
us well here."
yeah,
So they enjoy, some of them like living there. They feel
mhm,
like it's a good place for them.
yeah,
What's
yeah,
interesting is that I'm thinking, is this an oversight or is there a reason for this? They don't know not only how strong their body is physically, but they also don't know all the features and functions that they now possess. When the
yeah,
children are talking, we see that one of them tells the others, "Hey, I just learned, a new subject. You can just pick out a book, upload it, and then everything that's in the book will be in your mind."
yeah,
And we see that Smee does not know that that's a possibility. He's like,
yeah,
"Really? We could do that?" So
mhm,
they don't even know the features that they have. It makes
yeah,
me think that they haven't sat the children down and told them what their abilities are. There's no sort of school. You would think
yes,
that there would be like a school program for the synthetics.
yeah,
Every day, a couple of hours teaching them what they can do. But
yeah,
no, it seems like they're just kind of living and they're telling each other different things that they're learning that they can
mhm.
do, but nobody sat me down and told him, "Hey, if you want to learn something, you could just grab a book and it'll
Just
be in your
upload it.
mind." Hmm.
That is a good point. That's a really good point, and it does kind of seem like these children were put into these synthetic bodies, and they then kind of just shoved out into the world with no prep. It does kind of have that feeling every once in a while, doesn't it? Because again, taking into consideration that these are children, these are 12, 10, 11-year-old children that have been put into these bodies. You think they would have taken all of the time in the world to prep them as much as they possibly can in terms of what they are now, what their capabilities are. As you mentioned, they don't even know what they're capable of. They don't even know what their new synthetic bodies can and can't do. That's a huge problem, and I think that's a huge oversight on Prodigy's part for not preparing them a little bit better, especially when just a minute ago we're praising them for thinking about all these other kind of redundancies and thinking about other possibilities in terms of if they ever become a threat or become dangerous, they have all these other plans. Yet they didn't stop and put some kind of educational package together for them, even if it's something that they just simply upload into them so they know it.
Hmm.
Yeah, the prep that went behind you know making these children ready to become what they have become was very lax.
Yeah. And so I was thinking about that. And I thought there's a couple of options to explain that away because this is a great show. There's great writing. The options to explain that away would be we just transfer the children's consciousness into the synthetic body and then we had the crash. That's a valid reason as to why not teach the children or continue to work on that plan of
Mhm.
programming them so that they know what they now possess.
Yeah.
Yeah, a crash with aliens from other planets, yeah, that's a valid reason. You were busy, we could say. They're so busy that that's taking their attention away. That makes
Mhm.
sense. And then option number two, like we saw with Nibs, maybe you wouldn't want the children to know how powerful they are. They're children after all. The oldest is 12. They talked about that. They're like, "You're not the oldest." Wendy says, "I'm the oldest." And then The other one says, no, there's 12-year-olds here, which means Wendy is younger than 12 and the oldest is 12. You might not
Mhm.
want to give them the information that they can um, take you down, right? Maybe they're not
Mhm.
telling them what they are for a reason.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe it is a self-preservation kind tactic behind it, and I can totally understand that, not wanting them to maybe know the full extent of their power right away until they get a little bit older. But in terms of like functionality wise, like what we mentioned earlier with uploading books, and information into their bodies so they can kind of learn things, little things like that, you would think they would have maybe prepped them a little bit better for. But I definitely get the hesitation for them not wanting to, you know turn them into these crazy, powerful, all-knowing beings very early on until they know that they can, get a handle on these things. If these things were to rebel and kind of just go off on their own, it would be very, very difficult to contain 5, 6 incredibly powerful synthetics, all with children minds inside of them that would make them that much more wild. That would be a very tough situation to deal with if these things all just went nuts all at once, like Nibs is seemingly beginning to go nuts. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's a precaution on their part to not give them everything all at once. Our little Indian friend is walking around unchecked. Unless that's an experiment as well. Yeah, they don't seem to be, and that's another thing. They don't seem to have like chaperones or anything. Like I get they're probably under 24-hour surveillance, just being in the Prodigy building in the Neverland Research Station. But yeah, I mean, you would think that I mean, they hype these things up company wise in terms of stating that the loss of a single unit would be catastrophic, billions on billions and billions of dollars per unit. Clearly a lot of capital and a lot of research and a lot of time and effort went into creating these hybrids, just into creating the synthetic bodies themselves. So yeah, you would think that they would kind of, I mean, not have them on a tighter leash, but at least have them supervised a little bit closer. Yeah, we see them just kind of wandering off by themselves all the time. So I definitely noticed that as well, Elizabeth, for sure. And speaking of everybody in the chat, welcome everyone. So glad to see each and every one of you here as we dive into some Alien Earth episode 4. We got the Rogue Prince in the building. We got Starlight in here. Welcome, Starlight. We got Elizabeth. We got House Dane. We got Bill D. Welcome, Bill D. We got AXZ in the house. Welcome, 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 welcome one, welcome all. We got Big Dago in the building. Welcome, Big Dago. Good to see you as well. We got John DeVost in the house as well. What is up, John? Welcome, welcome. We got Howdy in the building. We got Debbie in the house as well. And the one and only Star. Welcome, Star. Yeah, let's dive into this episode a little bit more because again, I did think this was a pretty good episode. Just like every episode of Alien Earth so far, like there's some really really good things, and then there's like a few things that kind of like could have been done a little bit better. But overall, I am enjoying the viewing experience so far. I'm enjoying it more than I'm not enjoying it. And in this episode, we like you said, I love how we're kind of peeling back the layers on some of these other hybrids, not just Nibs. We're definitely seeing that Nibs is clearly having some serious problems. Love to know where the whole pregnancy thing came from. I think that would be interesting, like out of all of the things for her to kind of fixate on or to create a delusion around, why pregnancy? I mean, is it because all of a sudden she was a child at one point and now all of a sudden now she sees herself as an adult, and that is the next step for an adult to do? And that's what adults do. They have children. Is it just a natural evolution, a natural progression thing for Nibs that she honed in on the pregnancy thing? Or do you think it might have that religious angle to it, as you mentioned? We don't really know a whole lot about Nibs's background, but I wouldn't be too surprised if she was raised incredibly religious.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe it comes from her background. I find it really interesting that in this episode, we had two storylines that I theorize, are going to converge into the same thing. So she talks about, this immaculate conception, synthetic conception, where she says, Jesus didn't, he was not created in the typical way, right?
Yeah.
And so she believes that she has been chosen just like Mary was chosen.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Wendy in the same episode says they chose me. She acknowledges that she can communicate and she says, I heard them talking, they were screaming, does not call them aliens, doesn't call them xenomorphs, calls them baby. The baby was screaming. So she refers to this alien as a baby. She feels chosen as well by this alien.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's going in the direction of the Xenomorph Queen. They maybe have chosen her as their queen,
Yeah.
right? She seems to be
Mhm.
able to calm them down. She calls
Yeah.
them baby. I'm thinking that in the storyline of Nibs, thinking that she's going to become a mother, while Wendy is kind of being chosen to be the mother of these babies, is really interesting.
It is, and it kind of echoes her relationship among the hybrids as well, because that was one of the first things that we saw Kirsch and Dr. Dame come up to Wendy and say right after Wendy was created, before the other children had been made hybrids. That was her task. Can you be a quote unquote big sister? She told them, but big sister, motherly figure, kind of similar in the similar ballpark. But yeah, we see her kind of playing that role with the hybrids at first, being the kind of big sister, the guardian of the group, the leader, as it were. Even though her leadership status was very much challenged in this episode,
Mhm.
she was the first, and she was looked at as the kind of big sister figure. And now we're seeing something similar happen here with this with her in the xenomorphs. Why just the xenomorphs? How come she is only communicating with this species? What is it that, what kind of connection is being developed there between the two? Because, yes, as you said, she does seem to not just communicate with them, but she seemed to calm it down. And even in last week's episode, she seemed to actually tap in and feel what they were feeling. It looked like she was physically in pain, like she could feel the pain that the facehugger was going through, which is very interesting for a synthetic, considering I believe they do not even have pain receptors. Wendy shouldn't even be able to feel pain. Her body is mechanical now. But that was very interesting. It was almost like the connection between her and the facehugger in episode 3 was so strong that she was even feeling its pain in a body that technically shouldn't be able to feel pain. And then in this episode, of course, we have the reveal at the end where this kind of weird hybridized kind of xenomorph comes bursting out of Joe's lung. Now, taking a look at this thing, this is clearly no regular xenomorph. I mean, we've all seen what baby xenomorphs look like, the chest bursters when they burst out of the human chest. They're a lot different than this. So they're a little bit bigger. They're definitely not serpentine like this. They don't have snake bodies like that. There's just a regular baby xeno. But this is different. This is not your average xenomorph. And I very much am looking forward to seeing what this thing's going to turn into. What is the full the full version, the next mutated version of this thing going to look like? What is it going to grow into, I guess? Because again, this is no normal xenomorph. I mean, xenomorphs do not have this kind of snake serpentine like tail and body. This is a little bit different. And maybe that's because Kirsch pulled the embryo directly out of the facehugger and put it directly into the tank. Maybe it's because this thing gestated in something a lot smaller than a human body. And because because some people were wondering if this was going to birth just a regular xenomorph. But considering how small the lung is, I had a feeling this was going to be something a little bit different. And based on the trailer, it did have a little bit more of a serpentine kind of look to it. When a facehugger attaches itself to a human, they implant their embryo down the esophagus into the stomach. And boom, we get a chest burster a few days later. But it looks a lot different than this. Every baby xenomorph I've ever seen looks much different than this. But seeing as this thing only gestated in something very small, like Joe's lung, maybe that's why we're seeing this kind of hybridized version of this xenomorph. And maybe it gestating in a human lung had part to do with that. Maybe we're seeing some new kind of xenomorph species that's a little bit smaller, a little bit more serpentine, but very much still within that classic xenomorph kind of family.
Mm. I really like that explanation I think that that explanation scientifically has everything that would potentially happen. It was dissected from its natural habitat, its natural environment, and then it was implanted. So that in itself changes, I think, the way that it's supposed to naturally come about.
Yeah, the
This is a
natural
premature.
gestation period. Yeah.
Exactly. I think what we're looking at is a premature xenomorph. So just
Yeah.
like we have premature babies, where
Yes.
there are
Love it.
parts of these babies, or anything that's premature, are not fully developed into what it should look like, or they're just not quite developed, but they're out and living and breathing. And so I think that this is a premature xenomorph. I found it really interesting that she was also singing a lullaby. She
Yeah.
was singing to the lung, but very strange. But she was singing the lullaby, and it seemed to want to be with her, right? It was drawn to the sound. It was
Yeah.
drawn to her singing. It was drawn to her talking to it. So I think that this also confirms your video that you made as to why Joe had that plot armor. We were all wondering, and I think that this confirms your theory that the reason why they were not attacking Joe is because Wendy's feelings towards Joe were communicated in some way,
Mhm.
shape, or form, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I do like that idea. I feel like it would make sense, at least considering this connection that we're seeing developed between Wendy and the xenomorphs. I think it would at least make sense that yes, maybe the xenomorphs were sensing Wendy's just natural instinct to protect her brother, and maybe that's what saved him during all those encounters with the xenomorph. Or they sense that he would be a perfect breeder. And why xenomorphs choose certain humans to kill and certain humans to become breeders is kind of unknown, but they must sense something within them. Maybe Joe just kind of fit the bill to be a good breeder. But I love how you kind of describe this as a premature Xeno. I think that's a really good way to describe it because it does look a little bit premature. The arms don't look fully developed. The body was clearly not fully developed. It's got this kind of snake serpentine kind of look to it instead of the regular xenomorph body. I think that's what we're seeing here, a premature Xeno. Something that didn't have a full gestation period because it wasn't put in a proper host, only in a very small, kind of already halfway dead lung. So yeah, I think that's I think a premature Xeno is a very apt way to kind of describe what we're seeing here. Not a full Xeno, but something kind of premature. But again, it begs the question, what exactly is this thing going to grow into, I guess? We get the Fading Man for 199. Thank you so much, the Fading Man. Very much appreciate that. Excellent episode. Poor Nibs. Yeah, I mean, you do kind of feel bad for Nibs. You do. Clearly she is definitely under this mental strain. She's just experiencing what I'm kind of referring to as this kind of hybrid psychosis, I guess you could call it. What exactly is causing it still remains to be seen. Is it just the trauma from her encounter with the T. Ocellus earlier in the season? Or is there something else going on? Did something go wrong with her upload? Or is this one of maybe other unforeseen side effects that we're going to see that the scientists didn't know would happen? There's always going to be unforeseen side effects on a program like this, on an experiment like this that is so experimental. And again, these are all prototypes at the end of the day, so there's going to be some things to iron out. Maybe this is one of those things where in certain cases the mind ends up snapping, ends up losing its grip with reality. Again, you're melding a human mind with a mechanical body at the end of the day. There are going to be some complications and maybe some unforeseen complications. And I think that's what we're maybe seeing here with Nibs, compounded with the trauma that she's probably dealing with from her, attack with the Teocelius that definitely seemed to really rattle her. I think we're seeing some kind of hybrid psychosis, and maybe it's just the first of many side effects that we're going to see with some of the other hybrids as well. But yeah, you do feel bad for her at the end of the day because this is just a 12-year-old child that was just looking for a second shot at life. And now we're seeing her slowly being driven mad, and on top of it, become a very much danger to herself and to everybody around her. As you were stating earlier, PM, it's not like this is just a child losing its mind. This is a weapon of mass destruction losing its mind potentially at the end of the day. These things are incredibly dangerous. And as we saw in this episode, even Nibs doesn't really know her own speed and strength, considering how fast she was on top of Dr. Dame. Yeah, this could get very dangerous for everybody around her, but yeah, you do kind of feel bad for Nibs, in this whole thing. She's really getting a raw end of the hybrid deal.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, the fading man. I agree. Poor Nibs. I feel so bad for her because sh ever since they went in for the rescue mission, this is what she looks like. She's gone, right? Her eyes are glazed over.
Yeah,
She's really struggling.
yeah.
She was terrified. And now that she's going through this religious psychosis, it's only going to become even more terrifying because she genuinely believes that at the end of this, there will be a baby. She even has picked out names. So when that doesn't come to fruition, when there is no baby, how is she going to react? Right? That's going to be a huge problem when reality is not matching what her psychosis is saying. I really like that they worked in the theme of this religious psychosis because it's a very real world thing. If you want to
Yeah.
go down a rabbit hole, you do research on that. It's very interesting. But the reason why people choose or not choose kind of go into this religious psychosis is background. So we know that she grew up in a farm, and like you stated before, Jeremy, potentially her family was really religious, and so she in her trauma was drawn to seek comfort in what she knew, which is religion and being chosen.
Mhm.
I just feel so bad for her. She's the one that I feel
Yeah.
like super bad for. Slightly is also going through it. He has his own thing that he's
Yeah.
going through, but I just feel so bad for her because I'm just wondering what's gonna happen when there's no baby. What do you do?
Man, that's a good point. Like, how is she going to be brought to the realization that she's not really pregnant? And when she does come to that realization, how is that going to affect her? You definitely get the sense that she is very excited about this pregnancy. It seems like she's going to be pouring everything into it, all of her hopes and all of her aspirations. She feels like she's chosen. But yeah, what kind of big letdown is that going to be when she does come to the realization that she's not pregnant? Is that going to be the final straw that kind of snaps the camel's back, as it were? Um, maybe, maybe, could be. Yeah, I feel bad for Nibs. I do. I do. I feel bad for her. And again, I don't think she's the only one. I think she will be far from the only hybrid that experiences some kind of complications with their upload or something that they're going through. I get the feeling there's going to be a lot of unforeseen side effects from this experiment that none of them anticipated. But we'll see. We'll see. And you mentioned earlier about the whole xenomorph queen thing, and that's starting to become a pretty popular theory that people think that maybe Wendy is going to be a kind of stand-in for the xenomorph queen. That's why she has this kind of influence over them, this connection with them. And I like that idea in theory, but I guess it just depends on how they're going to execute it. Is like, how is this going to develop? Are we going to get to a point where Wendy starts looking at these xenomorphs as they're the good guys, they're the victims? Like, these are killers at the end of the day. They're dangerous alien killers at the end of the day too. And you want them to kind of maintain that horror and fear aspect of them. You don't want to all of a sudden start to sympathize with the xenomorphs. At least I don't really. So I'm very kind of hesitant to see how they're going to play up this whole connection between Wendy and the xenomorphs and her potentially being this kind of stand-in for the queen. One thing I don't really want to see is a full-on xenomorph queen. Like, we've been wondering, what is this species 37? There's still one more alien that we haven't seen yet on the show. We've heard about 5 deadly alien species. We've only seen 4 so far. And whatever the species 37 is, we haven't seen it yet. We still need to see what that is. And a lot of people seem to think that it might be a xenomorph queen. And I really hope it's not. I don't want to see a xenomorph queen. I don't want to see something I've already seen before, I guess, especially when we're already seeing a lot of stuff on the show that are things we've already seen before. But I don't know. How do you feel about Wendy potentially being the stand in for the xenomorph queen? And what do you guys think in the chat as well? Do you like the idea of Wendy being the kind of stand in for the xenomorph queen? What do you guys think about that?
Mm. I mean, I have questions. I have a
Mhm,
lot of questions. I'm new to the whole Alien franchise and the fandom, so I have a lot of questions.
mhm.
The whole point of being the xenomorph queen is that she is the one that lays the eggs that makes these babies, right?
Yes.
Well, that's not going to happen with Wendy. So why
No,
would they choose her as the xenomorph queen stand-in when, life seeks to reproduce? So
yes.
she's not going to give you what you need. It doesn't make sense that she would be the queen. I feel like they're hinting at this sort of like connection between her and them, but I'm wondering what happens next because she's not going to be able to reproduce. It's just not going to happen.
True.
Also, I look at the xenomorphs as just animalistic creatures. They're neither bad or good. They're just seeking to reproduce. And it just so happens that we are the host that they need to reproduce. Humans are the host. That's not going to work long term, right?
Mm,
So it's not necessarily, as far as we know, they're intelligent, but they're
yeah.
not seeking anything else other than reproduction. Now
Mhm.
we get something really interesting. The little octopus creature, the eye that looks like an octopus.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of that one, so I
The
apologize.
Teocellus. The
The
Teocellus.
Teocellus.
Yeah.
So the Teocellus, Kirsch mentions that it's intelligent.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
observation shows you that it is intelligent. It's trying to assess the situation. So this one
Mhm.
I'm interested in. There's only one. We know how it takes over a body, but how does it reproduce? And what its motivation, right?
Yeah.
This one
Mhm.
doesn't seem as animalistic. This one seems like it has another goal in mind. I'm
Yeah.
interested in seeing how would it reproduce if there's only one
Mhm.
and it doesn't do anything much to the body other than take over.
Yeah. Yeah, what is the ultimate goal of the Teocellus, I guess is the question. And I did a theory video on this a few weeks back where we see the Teocellus infecting all of these host bodies, but we see them leaving them in very much a poor state. Like we saw the state the cat was in when the Teocellus left it. It's half of its head was gone by the time. And I get the feeling we're going to see something similar here with the sheep. Part of me thinks that it's simply just searching for the perfect vessel that can sustain it indefinitely. And I feel like we see some foreshadowing in this episode in particular that points to Boy Cavalier being its ultimate host. Um, we see this one scene right here, right during this scene when they're all observing it, and Boy kind of makes a point to kind of tap on the glass, throw the ball at the glass so it'll turn around and look at him. And you get this very weird gesture from Boy Cavalier, kind of like pointing to himself, and it almost just gave me the feeling like it was some kind of foreshadowing that Boy's going to get infected by this thing, possessed by this thing. But I think it's searching for the perfect host. That's what I think. I think it is searching for the perfect host that can sustain it, something that can sustain it long term. Seemed like the cat wasn't strong enough to sustain it long term. I get the feeling the sheep will not be strong enough to sustain it long term. Maybe it just needs that perfect host that it can live a full life in. But then again, as you've mentioned, how does it reproduce? We still have no idea how the thing reproduces. Just about every creature, just about every species in existence has some way of propagating the line in some way or another. I mean, how does this species reproduce? Every species has to reproduce or they would go extinct. So yeah, I think that's another question we need to find out. What does this thing want? Is it searching for potentially a perfect host? And if so, how does it replicate?
Mm. That brings up an interesting idea. So they keep showing us. I love the observation of Boy Cavalier pointing to himself because that would be, coming full circle. He believes to be the most intelligent person on earth
Mhm.
and just wants somebody he could have a conversation with. Well, this creature, the Teosella, seems to be very intelligent. He'll literally have him in his mind forever.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. That's so good, PM. Oh my God, I love that.
I
He'll
love
find
that.
that is
But
brilliant.
also, talking about the Teocellus, right? How it
Mhm.
reproduces.
Yeah,
They keep showing us nibs and the way that the Teocellus sort of was stretching its tentacles at her. It
yeah,
couldn't quite get to her eye, but it was attempting to, and it was stretching its tentacles, and there was just like slimy,
yeah.
stuff all over. And it
Mhm.
makes me wonder if it can take over things, could it potentially have, some of that gotten into her eye? She's also bouncing her eye up and down, kind of inspecting it. Could it
Uh-huh.
be that she is hosting one of those and maybe she's not pregnant, but she has been infected, and that's how they reproduce by leaving
Oh.
behind DNA material into something that they can grow into?
Man, interesting, interesting. Maybe, yeah, she thinks she's pregnant with some kind of immaculate conception, but really she's just infected by the Teocellus. I think that would be a very interesting twist of fate for her character to believe that she has been chosen by God or whatever to kind of birth this immaculate conception, only to find out that no, she was just infected by an alien life form. That would be a very interesting twist of fate for her character, I think. And I suppose anything's possible. I mean, when I see things like this, part of me tends to think that maybe these things can only replicate inside like living organic bodies, but there's still so much we don't know about these hybrids and about these other life forms and what kind of conditions they need to replicate. So yeah, maybe it's possible. Maybe the Teocellus did leave a little something behind in nibs that we didn't realize at first. Um, love that. Love that. Species 37 is baby predator. Yeah, I mean, and I know you're just kidding, Will Spear. Probably won't see a predator in season one, but there are a lot of people out there who do think we are going to see a predator. Like a lot of people think species 37 might be referring to a predator. Those two worlds are, of the same continuity. We've seen them cross over numerous times. So seeing a predator pop up in an Alien series, while it would be a little surprising, it wouldn't be completely outside of the realm of possible. But yeah, I don't know. I tend to think we're not going to see a predator. Or at least I really hope we don't see a predator. I don't want to see any predators on this show personally. But who knows? We'll find out, I guess. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Interesting. That would be so cool. Yeah. I wonder if it could take over in synthetic. That's what I wondered too, as well. But considering that the synthetics don't seem to have a living organic brain, I tend to think they probably couldn't like fully take them over the way that the Teocellus took over the cat and the sheep and could maybe a human. Because again, the way that these things work, from what we gather, it replaces the eyeball and then attaches itself to the brain via the optical nerve. That's how it gains control of the host. So if the synthetic bodies don't have an optical nerve and don't have a brain to attach to, I tend to think they probably couldn't take over a synthetic. But who knows? Who knows? Could it take over a xenomorph? Now, that was an interesting one as well. We actually heard there's actually been a lot of debate about that in some of our comment sections as well, whether or not the TO cells can take over a xenomorph. Now, from what we know about the xenomorphs, they usually don't have any eyes, for one. So that is, a big problem in and of itself. This Teocellus is very much an eye character that goes through the eye to the brain, but the xenomorphs don't have eyes. They very much, they don't have any visible eyes on their head, so there would be no point of entry for the Teocellus. And then someone brought up in the comment section the other day, very cleverly, that even if the Teocellus did find a way to get inside the xenomorph's head, the acid blood would probably kill it. I mean, the xenomorphs have literal acid for blood, which I have to imagine the Teocellus would not be able to withstand. So as much as I would love to see one of these things take over a xenomorph, I think that would really be cool looking. I'm not sure if it's possible.
Mm. And I think it's quite creative, right?
It
I
is.
really like that. As soon as we're seeing the aliens, we are thinking, let's mix them up.
Yeah,
Like,
what's
let's have
possible?
one
Let's
take
mix and
over.
match.
Right? So I find that very creative, but they definitely seem to be different creatures, potentially from different planets, right? These were not all collected from the same planet. They were collected from different planets. We
Yeah,
are told that.
yeah.
So maybe they are, from different planets to the point where it just wouldn't match. Like there is no way. That's what I tend to think. It just doesn't seem like something that would work.
Just yeah, maybe just some things just aren't compatible. That simply the working parts aren't there for these things to merge, as it were. And again, this is very much an eye creature. The xenomorphs don't have eyes; they have acid for blood, which would probably kill it instantly. Yeah, I tend to think the xenomorphs might be one of the only organic life forms, or partly organic life forms out there that is probably safe from the Teocellus's grasp. But Boy Cavalier isn't. Boy Cavalier is not safe from the grasp of the Teocellus. And again, just seeing that scene in this episode of the Teocellus coming up to the glass and that little moment that is shared with Boy, part of me just had a feeling like, okay, is this where we're going? Is this Teocellus going to take Boy over by the end of the season, maybe, or by the end of the series? That could be interesting. And as you mentioned, we hear Kirsch say this is a very highly intelligent creature. These things are smart, and that was something they kind of alluded to before the series started, that the Teocellus isn't just like some mindless animal. It's a very intelligent creature. And as you mentioned, if this thing does take over Boy by the end of the season, could that finally be the one kind of incredibly smart conversation that Boy has been searching for his whole life, with the Teocellus infecting his brain, communicating with this foreign alien life form from another planet? Is that the conversation that Boy is ultimately searching for? It could be a bittersweet ending for him, in the terms of, like, yes, he's getting taken over by some alien life form, but he finally got that one interesting conversation that he's always been searching for. So I love how you added that in at the end. I would love to see that kind of be a pretty interesting ending for Boy's character.
Yeah, I really like your idea because they kind of are
I like your idea.
foreshadowing, and as I think it's a great idea. Like you stated, he's literally looking at it, pointing at himself. I think that's a
Yeah.
great observation.
Mhm.
And we see how reckless Boy Cavalier is. Now we know that the scientist, the therapist, and the other doctor are married. They're husband and wife. And they're
Yeah.
talking about how reckless he is.
Yes.
Now, what's interesting in his recklessness is that Kirsch is acting strange. If we are to deduct that Kirsch is supposed to work for Boy Cavalier and protect him, work for him, kind of like follow his instruction, Kirsch kind of keeps a lot of things to himself. He keeps a lot to himself. There was a scene in the last episode where Boy Cavalier goes and gets really close to the eggs, the xenomorph eggs, and
Mhm.
Kirsch already knows what happens with the eggs. He has seen them react to humans when he saw, um, who's supposed to
Morals.
be our. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he knows this. He has knowledge of that. Instead of telling him before he gets too close to stop, he allows him to get close enough to see the egg react to him and then tells him, once he's protected, this would take over you. But that was interesting that he allowed him to get that close, almost
Mm.
as if Kirsch has an alternative motive. He wanted to see
Ooh.
if Boy Cavalier was human because he doesn't know. So maybe he was thinking, I want to see if Boy Cavalier is human if the egg reacts to him. He
Okay.
just seems to be keeping a lot of information to himself. We see it in the episode when he knows what's going on with Slightly, and yet there is no conversation being had between Kirsch and Boy Cavalier. We're not seeing him report to him. He
Hmm.
seems to be keeping a lot of things to himself.
Yeah. I mean, it does kind of almost seem like he's got a little bit more agency than your average synthetic that is beholden to a company who just, completely blindly follows orders to a T. Like you said, it almost does appear like Kirsch has a little bit of kind of wiggle room here and there. Because yeah, I mean, like we see the way he acts, his mannerisms, the way he behaves, he very much appears to kind of have his own thinking and his own kind of decision making skills, even to the point where Boy kind of puts him in charge. He says, "You're in charge." So he does kind of seem to have his own agency to a certain degree. I mean, yes, ultimately he is owned by Prodigy and Boy, but it seems like like you said, he's got some wiggle room there. He's got some more agency than we've seen in other synthetics, I think. And if that is the case, how far does that go? How deep does that go? What is the extent of that? Could it be as deep to the point where he does maybe have an ulterior motive? Maybe maybe he does have some kind of secret plan that he isn't telling Boy about. How much freedom, how much agency does he have at the end of the day, I guess is the question. But he seems like he's got a little bit because he doesn't appear to behave like your average synthetic. That's for sure. That's for
No,
sure.
and I mean, this thing with Morrow and Slightly is a huge problem.
Yeah.
We saw that
Oh, yeah.
Kirsch knows
And he's
he's
watching
not.
all of it. He's watching
Yeah,
all of it. Yep.
and doing nothing, right?
Nothing.
He's
Nothing.
watching and doing nothing. It's a
Yes.
huge problem, and we don't see him report this to Boy Cavalier.
Nope.
He just keeps this all to himself. Even when he finds out, he goes over to Slightly and gives him another riddle. By that point, Slightly is just sick of it. You could see him, he's like, oh my God.
Feels
Everybody
bad.
talks to him in riddles.
Yeah.
Morrow is talking to him in riddles. He gets to his room and Kirsch has another riddle for him. Do you know why this painting of the monkeys is this way? He's like, oh my God.
Mhm.
I really don't know much, guys. But he
Uh,
doesn't answer the question,
no.
right? The question that Kirsch asked. And we know that Slightly has a computer for a brain, so he's intelligent enough
Yep.
that if a question is asked, he knows what the question is. The
Yep.
question Kirsch was asking was, if I do something that I shouldn't do, something that is not right, would you do something? Would you
Would
say
you stop me?
something?
Yeah.
Would you stop me?
Mm.
He just says, I would stand up for my friends. That's not the question. The question
Yeah.
is, what do you do when a friend of yours or a partner of yours does something wrong?
Mhm. Yeah.
Right? And he didn't answer. He did not answer that question.
He didn't. No, it was a very, he evaded the answer. It was a very evading answer, very vague, not very directly answering it. Yeah, he evaded that for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, this is a big problem. Like you said, Kirsch has been watching the whole thing. He's monitoring. I mean, and that's the thing. Just an episode prior, you'd think. I mean, I know they're children, but literally a previous episode ago, we saw Ainz, Peter Pan's shadow, Boy Cavalier's good old trusty shadow. We saw him go up to Slightly and Smee and straight up tell them, "We record everything your eyes see." So Slightly should know that he is under constant surveillance. Everything he sees, everything he does, they can see. They know he does. Yeah, he's still talking to Morrow like it's some secret that he can keep secret. So that kind of bothered me a little bit. I mean, again, I get that they're children, so maybe he wasn't fully kind of contemplating what recording everything they see means. But again, even a child can kind of understand that, right? Because even they both say, I don't know how I feel about that. When they find out that they're recording everything that they see, he's not quite sure how he feels about that. It's a bit of an invasion of privacy. And then here we are an episode later, he's still trying to run around like and secretly have these meetings with Morrow. It's like, did you not stop and think that they can literally see everything you can see? So that really bothered me. I feel like that was I don't know if it was just their choice to do it that way, but it was inconsistent. The writing was inconsistent there, just for me personally. You're literally just told that they're watching everything you do. They can see everything you can see. Yet you're still having these meetings with Morrow, pretending that no one's going to know. So that was a bit of a plot hole that I didn't really that I noticed, I guess I could say. Plot hole that I noticed. But yeah, as you mentioned, Kirsch is surveilling all of this. He's watching everything that's happening between Morrow and Slightly, and he's seemingly just sitting back and letting it happen and just seeing what happens. He's not stopping it. He's certainly not reporting it to Boy. Why is that? Does Kirsch have some other ulterior motive for letting Slightly continue down this path? I guess is the question. Why isn't he putting an end to this?
Exactly, right? It makes you think that Kirsch is acting on his own. He has motivations that are all his own. They have nothing to do with Prodigy. Because now we know that the mother, at least the mother, we don't know about the father, but at least the mother of Slightly believed him to be dead. She did
Yeah,
not know that he was alive or that he was even um, transformed into the synthetics. She had no knowledge.
yeah,
When Maru goes over and tells her the truth, this could be a huge problem for Prodigy, a huge problem. So you would think that Courage would immediately stop this, the
yeah,
blackmail. It's
yeah,
not just for Slightly, it's also for the company. It can bring the company down. There's a reason why the children are never supposed to speak of their real names. So their identity isn't known.
yeah,
And you see the married couple, the doctor and the psychiatrist, talk about what a big problem this would be,
yeah,
how they don't mention the children or what they have done to the children because it would be a big problem. And Kirsch is still not protecting Prodigy, the company. He's not stepping in, he's allowing this to happen.
yeah,
And I wonder why. Why is he allowing this to happen? I still don't understand where he's getting at, like what he's trying to do.
yeah,
But I know that this is not going to be good for Prodigy. Now we know, like Millennium states in the chat, we know that there's 5 companies. It's not just Boy Cavalier. He
yeah,
forms a part of 5 companies who are now ruling, you know, the planet
yeah,
instead of government. It's corporations.
yeah.
He's not the only one. I thought it was maybe just two, him and the competitor,
Oh,
but
yeah, no,
there's
5.
five.
Yeah, there's 5. I did a small segment on that, like before Alien started. And anyone who hasn't checked out my Ultimate Guide to Alien Earth video, definitely check it out. We don't really know much about the other 3 companies, and that's something I wonder if they're going to touch on that a little bit more in the series. I mean, we know Prodigy, we know Weyland-Yutani, but these other 3 companies we know virtually nothing about, other than like you mentioned, the companies rose up and took over power from the governments, and they have been ruling the earth kind of equally ever since. But yeah, I wonder if they're going to dive a little bit deeper into that corporate structure, the kind of corporate rivalry that goes on between all of these companies. Are they going to keep it just contained to Prodigy and Weyland-Yutani, or do you think we'll see some of these other corporations in the show?
Mm. I mean, I would really like to see other corporations because I want to know what the public at large thinks about what Boy Cavalier is doing. He's keeping things secret,
Once they
and
find
also
out.
the other. Exactly. He's experimenting on children. The
Yeah,
other company is bringing life forms from other planets that can put Earth at risk. I don't see how, you know, 3 other companies are going to look at that and think that that is in the best interest of Earth. It's
yeah,
just not.
yeah.
So, what happens? What are the repercussions? And how do you
Mm,
handle somebody like Boy Cavalier?
yeah. No, that's a really good question. I mean, both Weyland-Yutani and Prodigy are both putting the Earth in incredibly dangerous situation here. Weyland-Yutani to start with. I mean, why they would ever want to bring a ship like this to Earth in the first place is idiotic. I mean, we know how vast the Alien franchise is, the world of Alien. There's multiple planets, there's barren moons that they could have landed. There's so many places where they could have set up an isolated research station where if these things got loose, it's not the end of the world. You take off and nuke the thing from orbit. But bringing all of these specimens to Earth, incredibly dangerous, an incredibly dangerous move. And we do know that the Earth was their destination. I mean, we saw Yutani on the phone with Morrow. She was anticipating this ship returning back to Earth finally after 65 years. But it's incredibly reckless, in my opinion, for Weyland Yutani to have Earth be their destination for all of these specimens, considering that if just one of them gets loose, it could potentially mean horrible problems, potentially even an extinction level event on Earth. So yes, when the other three companies fully get wind of what's going on here, that Weyland Yutani brought this ship here and that Prodigy found the ship, took control of the specimens, and is actively experimenting on them on Earth, I have to imagine the other three companies are going to be incredibly concerned. Because they're doing all this right in their backyard. It's one thing if this was, again, some kind of barren moon somewhere, but this is very, very dangerous. And we even hear Kirsch say that at the beginning of the series. When Boy is ordering him to bring the specimens back to Prodigy, Kirsch is like, I would love to, but we're dealing with a possible alien invasion here. If we don't lock these things down, it'll be too late. Almost like he was the only one thinking about the larger picture and not just thinking about, ooh, what can I poke and prod and study, like Boy was. So yeah, it's almost like Kirsch just has a much broader view for the big picture and what these things being on Earth could really mean for the planet, where Boy just simply wants to experiment.
Exactly. And I really like that Boy Cavalier lets us know there's no way I'm giving them back. I'm not giving them back because I will have a xenomorph explode out of my body. So he's very much aware that they are not friends. That
Yeah.
what he's done has severed, if there ever was some sort of connection or professionalism between the two companies, it has severed that. The
Mhm.
moment that he said, I'm not giving you back
Yeah.
the specimens.
Yeah.
So I really like that. And I like how the chat, right, talking about Kirsch and the way that he behaves, unlike our typical robot. The
Mhm.
chat, I like that the ladies really like Kirsch. They say he could do no wrong because the hair and the
Is it the
look.
hair?
Because of the hair, they find him to be very attractive. So very attractive robot. He reminds me, he's so 2000s, like boy band, pop star, blonde, and it's spiky. So he has a fan club.
He's got some fans. And I mean, yeah, Timothy Oliphant, handsome fella indeed. Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it seems like he's got his finger on the pulse of what is really going on, and at least someone is looking out for the broader picture overall. And I guess maybe that's why he's our Tinkerbell of the series. These are all modeled after Peter Pan characters at the end of the day, and Kirsch is very, very much modeled after a Tinkerbell type character himself, down to the pixie haircut, as you mentioned, PM. But yeah, I mean, Kirsch is a fun character. For me, Kirsch and Morrow are my two favorite characters to watch. I think they're the two most intriguing characters. Their storylines are very interesting, but on top of it, the acting is so good from both of these actors. They're definitely the two strongest actors on the series, I think. But I also like the acting from Boy's actor as well. He really has this kind of child prodigy genius maniacal dark Peter Pan kind of persona down to a T, from his mannerisms, the way he walks, the way he laughs, the way he's never serious, the way he's always joking. Very, very good performance, and you can very much see how it is so just obviously modeled off of Peter Pan, and even some of the darker aspects of Peter Pan and some of the earlier iterations of the character. But yeah, Morrow and Kirsch are definitely the two most intriguing characters for me up until this point. Loving seeing what they're doing so far on the show. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Where will they go? The Teocellus experiment was pretty interesting. Kind of went similar to how I think I imagined a lot of us probably thought it was going to go. This is a scene that we've been seeing in a lot of the different trailers and stuff, so we knew it was coming. And yeah, I mean, I feel like the scene didn't disappoint. I love how they instantly kind of established how this thing works, but also established the intelligence of it, how it's not just some mindless animal, some mindless parasite that is infecting things. It has a level of intelligence that is on par with humans, apparently, maybe even a little greater. And yeah, again, I love the foreshadowing in this scene, the foreshadowing of this thing potentially possessing Boy one day, where they share that little scene, that one little moment. Boy kind of points to himself, like, "Hey, I'm the one you're looking for." And as you mentioned, with the cherry on top being maybe that will finally give Boy the fascinating conversation he's always looked for. So I like the Teocellus experiment overall. It didn't disappoint, I thought. It was a good scene. Good scene. Questions you all had about the Queen. There is always one, but maybe Wendy will. Yeah, I mean, the whole Queen thing, again, very interesting aspects. I know there's actually been a lot of people, I mean, at least in our comment sections on some of our Alien videos, a lot of people that have been thinking that Wendy is going to be the Xenomorph Queen. She's going to fill that role. I mean, obviously not a literal Xenomorph Queen, but she's going to fill the role of Xenomorph Queen. And if the end of this episode was any indication, that very well may be the case. I mean, it looks like she is very well communicating with this thing. And to the point where, like you said, she even reaches in and pets it. And you can see the thing like kind of cozying up to her, kind of like how a cat like rubs himself up against you. Like this thing was very comfortable with Wendy. So yeah, I mean, maybe there is a little bit more to Wendy becoming this kind of Xenomorph Queen creature than I thought. And again, I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about that. I feel like this is interesting territory, yes, but territory like this can get super convoluted and super kind of over the top really fast. So I guess it all matters on how they play it. How grounded are they going to keep this connection between Wendy and the Xenomorphs? Are they going to go like full on freaking sci-fi? Or will they keep it a little bit grounded and restrain themselves a little bit and have it be a little more realistic, or as realistic as something like this can be? But this connection makes me a little bit nervous. I'm not sure if I want to see Wendy become this kind of stand-in for a Xenomorph Queen. I don't know how much I like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not going to provide what a queen should provide for the xenomorphs. We know that. There's not going to be any eggs. So maybe it's just the fact that she can communicate with them. And after all, they are babies. She calls them babies. The baby was screaming. So maybe it's just the fact of looking for comfort and somebody that can communicate with them. And maybe that is what Wendy is providing. I
Mhm.
really like the language. I love the
Yeah,
language that they're using because
that
it's
was
so
good.
strange. It's unlike anything that you've heard. And I like that, right? It's hard to make up a language and have it not sound funky, but the
Yeah,
language that they created, it's perfect, right? We see her reenact the language, and once again we see that Boy Cavalier is trying to triangulate her with the other synthetic that wants to take her place.
yeah.
I
And I
forget
love
her
how
name.
Curly. And I love how Boy
Curly.
kind of baits, and Boy totally, fanned the flames there in this episode. He totally threw fuel on the fire in this episode between Wendy and Curly when he says, "Hey, I know you can speak French, but I bet you can't do that." When Wendy starts speaking in this alien
Yeah.
language, totally making Curly way more jealous, I would imagine. Like he's totally fanning these flames.
He is. He enjoys it. He totally enjoys the fact that Curly has a one-sided competition with Wendy, because we still see that Wendy is sitting there. She's doing her little alien language. She's not aware. Wendy
No,
is still not even aware that there
she's
is
just Wendy.
conflict. She's not. She's just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. She's not aware that somebody is coming for her crown. She's just sitting there talking away, has nothing to say. doesn't ask anything. What we learn from this episode is that Wendy is very much non-confrontational.
Yeah.
Even though she has a leadership role, I don't think that she even realizes that she has a leadership role. We have
Mhm.
not seen her kind of dictate what the others are to do. She kind of like asks them and tells them what Boy Cavalier wants them to do. But other than that, she's not a dictator. She's not walking around being confrontational with people. And
Mhm.
we see that she would rather just kind of ignore. She sees that things are happening. She heard Boy Cavalier say that to Curly, and she said nothing. She just kind of ignores it. She's non confrontational. When the children are planning an uprising against the company so that they could see their
Mhm.
families, she also says, "Hey, I think I better go to the lab." She just walks
Yeah.
away as the children are planning a coup. She just, like, I don't know. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. She takes off.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you're getting the little bit of again. I had a feeling Boy was going to be a steady dose of comedic levity here and there, and he hasn't disappointed in that regard. He has very much provided the comedic levity that the show needs every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, just seeing him fan those flames had me dying. I was laughing my ass off like loud when I was watching this. Um, just seeing that one scene, like, oh, I bet you can't do that. Yeah, you might be able to speak French, but I bet you can't do that, can you? But can you do this? It's like, oh, fuck, boy, you're only going to make it tougher for Wendy. You're gonna make it to the point where where Curly is so jealous of Wendy that there's going to be a confrontation. There's going to be conflict between these two characters, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do end up coming to blows and trying to break up two
Mm.
synthetic hybrids from fighting could be very, very difficult considering how strong these beings are now. So yeah, they're definitely setting up the groundwork for a clash, I believe, between Curly and Wendy at some point.
And this is the thing, the crash is going to happen. Wendy is going to be attacked out of nowhere, and she's genuinely going to be like, what is
What
going
the
on?
fuck
Like,
is
I
going
didn't
on?
even what
Curly's
the
gonna have this whole fucking story in her head, this whole built up animosity, this whole competition that she's been thinking she's going back and forth the whole time, and Wendy's just gonna be like, "Oh, what the fuck was that for?"
Yeah, she's going to be like, oh my God, girl, like, I thought we were okay. Like, I don't know why this is happening. It's just, I thought that was really funny too. Boy Cavalier saying you could speak French, but you can't do that. It's just like, oh my God. Also, when they said, can you hear anything? She kind of wanted to pretend she could. She's like, maybe.
Is it
They're
maybe?
like, they're like, no. Can you
No,
hear
don't tell me
anything?
what I
Like,
want to hear. Tell me the truth.
she's
She
like,
so
no, I can't.
desperately wants to be his favorite.
She wants to be the favorite. She wants to be the favorite. Then she's like, no, no, I can't hear anything. Right? Which is hilarious. If this confrontation happens, Wendy, like I said, we have seen from this episode, she's non-confrontational. She
Yeah,
walks away. She takes off. The world could be falling apart. She's just like, I don't know. I want my stuffy and I just kind of want to like
yeah,
chill.
yeah.
So if the confrontation happens, I believe that Wendy could probably, from her end, she's gonna try to calm it down. She's
Maybe.
not a fighter. She's not a fighter.
Well, I mean, I feel like she's got a little bit of fight in her, a little bit. I mean, she did behead a xenomorph one on one, single handedly. So I think she's got a little bit of fight in her. I think if it did come
True.
down to them going blow for blow, my money's on Wendy. I mean, I think Wendy's going to win. She knows how to use the sword. I mean, again, she taking off the head of a xenomorph is no small feat. Even though she got very much injured in the process, she still killed a xenomorph one on one. So I think she's got a little bit of fight in her, probably more than Curly does.
Okay, I like it. And you're right. You're right on that point. I was more so thinking as to she would try to calm
Her
Curly down,
nature, yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
her
I mean,
nature's like, let's just be friends. Why can't
yeah,
we be friends? There's no reason. But that's right. If she is pushed into a fight, your money is on Wendy, right? I don't know. I feel like Curly. Curly,
Maybe.
she's
Curly's
angry.
devious.
Okay. Angry goes a long way.
It does.
Angry goes a long way,
It
right?
does.
You could be better at fighting, but when somebody is angry and they have this hatred for you, that can go a long way. I,
It can.
I would
It
still put
can.
my money on Wendy.
It can. It could definitely go a long way. And I do agree with you. I think if it were to come to that, Wendy would do everything in her power to try and resolve things without violence. I mean, if it came to violence, I think Wendy would win. Wendy would win. But yeah, I 100% agree with you. I do think Wendy would at least try to do everything she could to kind of calm the situation down before going there. But yeah, who knows? As as Millennium brings up, I'm horrible with names. I think Curly will betray all of the hybrids by the end of the season. I could see that
Mm.
happening. I could definitely see that happening. I mean, we're seeing already Nibs incredibly unstable, incredibly, close to getting closer and closer to that edge. And I think we're seeing the beginning of that with Curly in this episode as well. Again, with Boy kind of fanning the flames in the lab there, like, hey, you might be able to speak French, but you can't do this. To the already kind of pent up animosity and jealousy that Curly has for Wendy, with her so desperately wanting to be Boy's favorite. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see Curly potentially going down a similar path that Nibs is going down right now as well, where she starts to develop her own hybrid psychosis, with her being a little bit more geared towards paranoia rather than whereas Nibs is a little more delusional, having these delusions of grandeur. I could very well see Curly's hybrid psychosis being a little bit more paranoid in nature,
Mm.
wondering that she's not the favorite, wondering this, wondering that, just getting overall paranoid and distrusting of her fellow hybrids, Wendy included. But yeah, I could see her betraying the rest of them by the time the season ends. I could see that happening.
Yeah, I like the theory, Millennium. I like the theory because we do start to see during this episode, like somebody mentioned in the chat, it was not action packed. I believe it was Zombie Tally.
Yes.
No, it was not action packed. However, we got a lot of development and we got to see that even amongst just five children, even just among five synthetics, there are groups. There
Yeah.
are groups. Curly is off on her own.
Yep.
Curly is just following Boy Cavalier around. All she wants is to, be the favorite. So
Yep.
she is doing that.
Yep.
Um, the others, Smee and Slightly, seem to have a close bond. So, like a best friend sort of bond. So they're
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
much
That's
together.
very much.
Wendy, yeah, Wendy kind of hangs around all of them, not too friendly with anybody. She has her brother now.
Yeah.
And then we see the other one, Toodles.
Mm.
Toodles is very much close to Kirsch,
With Kirsch.
very
Yeah.
close to Kirsch.
Yeah.
He even gets a new name, right? He's always found Toodles to
Yeah.
be disappointing. And
Yeah.
I would agree with him. I wouldn't want my name to be Toodles.
It's
No
the
way.
worst. Toodles and Curly. I wouldn't want my name to be Toodles or Curly. I couldn't take. Like, both of those names are horrible. I'd take any of the other ones, but yeah, no Curly and no Toodles, please.
Yeah, it's not a good one, right?
No, not a
Um,
good.
but we see that there are little groups forming. We
Yes.
see that there's groups forming and there is a loyalty. There is a loyalty there, right?
Yeah.
I found it really interesting that when Slightly started saying, we should see our family, why is your brother here? That all
Mm,
of a sudden he has this animosity towards Wendy's brother because he doesn't get to see his family. And even though Wendy's brother is trying to kind of calm the situation down, we see that at the end of the episode, it seems like he chose Wendy's brother as the host for the Xenomorph.
hmm Yeah.
So he doesn't have any alliance towards Wendy. He doesn't have any, he doesn't care for her or for what she cares about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing that we're starting to see a little bit more of, and that's why I really like how we're getting good character developing moments. Yeah, I mean, the action hasn't been super over the top. I definitely agree with you, Zombie. It'd be nice to see a little bit more xenomorph action, a little bit more action in general. Definitely would like to see some more of that. But at the very least, if we're not getting action, I'm glad we're at least getting good character development where they're starting to kind of show us some of these other characters' motivations, what makes them tick, what are their goals, what are they after. And they're slowly but surely setting up that all of these hybrids have very different goals. They all have very, very different motivations for doing what they're doing. And that's going to be interesting to see how that all clashes, how that all kind of meshes as the season continues to progress, as the hybrids start to learn a little bit more about each other. We as the audience are getting the first glimpse because we have that audience bird's eye view. But the hybrids still don't seem to know a whole lot about each other in terms of all the motivations that they have amongst themselves. So I think that's going to be an interesting kind of dynamic that might develop between the hybrids where they all seem to want something totally different. And how's that going to play out, I guess. But I like this idea as well from Zombie. I think Curly's going to go over and try to be with Wayland Yutani. They will promise to be the favorite. Now, that's a very interesting idea. I mean, if Curly continues to try and do everything she can to become Boy's favorite, yet Wendy just continues to outshine her at every turn, that's going to get very frustrating for Curly to the point where, yes, I could see her maybe like snapping and turning on all the hybrids. Or, as you mentioned, yeah, maybe she hops the fence and goes over to the rival. I mean, I have to imagine if Wayland Yutani were to get their hands on one of Prodigy's prized, prototype hybrid creatures, hybrid synthetics, that's incredibly valuable. And I imagine that's something Wayland Yutani would really want to get their hands on, even more so now that Prodigy is keeping their specimens. I mean, Wayland Yutani thought they were going to have all these creatures to do all of this research on, all of this R&D, develop all kind of technology and stuff from it. And boom, all of it was just taken away from them in the last minute by Prodigy. So yeah, I have to imagine Wayland Yutani would do anything they could to get their hands on their own hybrid. And if Curly is going to hop the fence and go there herself, that could be a very interesting storyline that develops with her kind of changing sides.
Zombie Italian, I like the idea. I like
Yeah,
the idea because we kind of get to see the nature of the children, of the
yep,
synthetic children.
a little bit
We see
more.
Wendy's nature,
Mhm.
and Curly's nature is very much I want to be the best.
Yes.
She's very hardcore to the point of saying like, my dad throws away the first pancake. What are
Yeah.
you trying to say? Do you want them to throw away Wendy? Like that is
That's literally
very
what she's saying. That's exactly what she's saying.
that's
Yep.
crazy. That's crazy. You can't just destroy her because she was the first one. So it would be in her character. Now,
Mhm.
I've thought about this too. What is a way for Curly to get ahead? If she is seeing that Wendy can do all of these things, she herself refused to admit that she can't hear the aliens. But she's in the room when they are saying that Wendy can talk to them. I thought potentially it would be interesting to see Curly want to learn. She has this desire to learn. That's why she learned French. She
Mhm.
just kind of picks up things on her own. What about if she goes to the xenomorphs and tries on her own to communicate with them and to
Ooh,
interact with them?
yeah,
Then we could see what everybody has been wanting to see, the Teocelius taking over a synthetic, or them destroying one of these or going toe to toe with a xenomorph. She would be
yeah.
in danger. We know that she is not as good as Wendy. We know that. I just have a feeling that if she starts meddling with the specimens, she's not going to survive it. But she would be the one to go in and try to
Mhm.
learn herself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Especially with her seeing Boy's reaction to Wendy discovering this ability, to Wendy having this ability to communicate with these Xenos. Again, Curly's very driven to be better than Wendy, to be the favorite. So yeah, naturally, I could totally see that being a logical step that a logical step for her motivations. and in terms of her, trying to do what Wendy is doing, try to replicate what Wendy has, and then it going catastrophically wrong, either for her or to the point where she ends up letting these things loose and it goes wrong for everybody else. But yeah, I could totally see her attempting to try and replicate what Wendy is doing because she just simply wants to be the favorite. And again, these are children too, at the end of the day, jealous children that get incredibly jealous of each other and will go to, whatever lengths because they don't quite know the full ramifications of their actions and what they're going to unleash. So I could totally see Curly kind of doing something very ill-advised to try and give herself a leg up in the competition between her and Wendy, because it is a competition now. And Boy kind of set that in motion at the end of episode 3 when he tells Curly, when Curly says, "Does this mean I'm your favorite now?" And he says, "No, but it means you're in the race," indicating that it is a race. It is a competition now, or at least for Curly, it is a competition now. Wendy couldn't care less. Wendy doesn't even know about any of this yet. Poor Wendy, just going about her day trying to save her brother, and she doesn't know about any of this. But Curly has built up this whole kind of big competition in her head with help from Boy that is definitely going to get dangerous. It is definitely going to come to a head for sure.
Oh yeah. And that's totally Boy Cavalier's style. He has this Machiavellian style of not caring for anyone, manipulating. Nothing matters. The only thing that matters is not even money. He's not even motivated by money. He's told us that himself. It's just this Machiavellian desire to be entertained. So now there's a competition that, like you stated, Wendy's not even aware. But I do agree it's going to come to a head and it might get physical. It might become a physical thing where that's probably how Wendy she's going to find out that she's been in a fight when she gets hit. That's going to be like the first time that she figures out, "Oh my God, you have a problem with me."
You don't like me, huh? This is something I said. I mean, because poor Wendy, I mean, she's kind of so oblivious to that whole side of Curly, and she's super innocent. She's super pure. Like if any of the hybrids seem to be pretty pure of heart, it's Wendy. I mean, Wendy seems to be, she's got a good head on her shoulders, like at least, coming from the human standpoint. She kind of, she has no idea any of this is brewing. She's just going about her day, trying to keep her brother safe, trying to figure out what these aliens want, why they're communicating with her. And this whole time, she's got this just diehard nemesis just stewing in the background, just plotting her downfall. It's going to come to a head. Sure. It's going to come to a fucking explosive head at some point. Jane says there's no way one of those things is going to pop out of Nibs, right? Is that why she thinks she's pregnant? Very interesting idea, and that's NPM brought up something similar earlier as well. That's as to maybe Nibs is mistaking her being pregnant for really being infected by the Teocellus. I mean, we still have no idea how this thing replicates, how it creates more of itself. Everything, just about everything, has a way of replicating. Just about every organism or species on the planet is almost engineered to replicate themselves. It's in a lot of creatures just very being. So I have to imagine the Teocellus has some kind of way of replicating, but we don't know what that is. We know how it operates in terms of taking over a host organism, but how does it replicate itself? How does it propagate its line? Who knows? But maybe there's a little something inside Nibs that isn't exactly a human pregnancy, but an alien infection. I think that's an interesting idea. But I guess it all depends on if this alien can even survive in a synthetic host body. I mean, it seems like most of these creatures need living organic tissue to gestate in, but who knows? Who knows? I kept calling him Toothless instead of Toodles. Toothless. Anytime I hear Toothless, I guess I just think of Stranger Things. Setups and character development is good. Action can take a back seat a little as long as there will be more seasons. If there's too much going on, if there's only going to be one. Yeah, from what I hear, he's got a multi-season plan in place. Yeah, there's going to be multiple seasons from what I gather, or at least that's what they're aiming for, depending on how well Hulu and FX believes season one did will determine whether we get season two or not. But it seems like a lot of people are watching the show. There seems to be a lot of interest in the show. It's generating, a lot of views from all of the channels that are covering it. Even we're getting some pretty good views on our Alien content. So I have to imagine there's a good appetite out there already for it. I have to imagine there's probably some good numbers tuning in every week to watch it. So I have to imagine it will definitely get a second season. But from what I remember reading vaguely, Noah Hawley does have a multi-season story in place. It's not just going to be a one season and done thing from what I gather. There will be multiple seasons. I could have sworn he said something about like a 5-season arc, a 4 or a 5-season arc, I think, around there. But yeah, because like you said, they're setting up a lot. They're definitely setting up a lot that there's no way they're going to be able to wrap everything up in just 4 more episodes. There are only 8 episodes in season 1, which means we are halfway done. We are officially halfway through season 1 now that episode 4 is here. So yeah, definitely not going to be able to wrap everything up this season, and we will most likely be getting a second season. Probably, when we get it remains to be seen. We're all still waiting on Shogun season 2, which that show has been off the air for almost a whole year. So yeah, we'll get a second season of Alien Earth, but the way that shows drag their feet these days in terms of production, I imagine Alien Earth season 2 probably won't get it till 2027, I'm betting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Going back to like the Teocellus, and Jane is saying like Nip's pregnancy, right? Which she believes to be a pregnancy.
Yeah.
The Teocellus might be like parthenogenic, where they reproduce asexually. We have that sort of specimen on Earth. We have specimens that reproduce asexually, and all they need is a safe place to put their eggs or their offspring until they mature. And so it doesn't need to be an organic place. It just needs to be a safe
A
place.
housing. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm thinking if it's parthenogenic, it used Nibs as a host, and she knows. She said, I woke up and I can feel it. I can feel that there is something, and she's thinking I'm pregnant, but maybe what she's feeling is I feel that there is something, an infection in me, or that there is something that is taking place inside of me, right? Making a home, as it were.
Yeah.
So I really like that idea. Going back to what you said about them being children after all, they are children after all, and we're reminded all the time. For example, the whole thing that's going on with Slightly and Morrow. Now, I think that we could kind of say, right? We have been going back and forth between thinking, is Morrow a good guy or is he a bad guy? To, simplify it. Everybody's complex, but is he a good guy or a bad guy? I think that now that he is blackmailing a child and telling him he will hurt his mother, he's probably a bad guy, right?
He's full on Captain Hook now. Yeah, full on Captain Hook.
Using the fact that he knows how to speak to children, to speak to Slightly in a way that he will manipulate him to the point where now Slightly has chosen. I think we could deduct that he has chosen Wendy's brother to be the host of the Xenomorph, so that he could bring Wendy's brother to Morrow. We see him staring out the window, staring at Joe, as Joe is like taking off his shirt. I think that maybe he's thinking, Joe has been through a lot. He's here. I don't like him. He has this animosity towards Joe too, just for existing. I think he picked Joe.
Man, and Joe's one of the few humans around that he would actually have access to, to grabbing up and doing something like this. Like, there's not a whole lot. There's a bunch of synths running around and scientists. There's not really a whole lot of just like readily available humans to grab up. So Joe is in the closest proximity. Yeah, he could be a good ideal candidate. That's very true. That's very true. But this is an interesting aspect here because, yes, we saw Slightly try to kind of resist Morrow. But unfortunately, like you mentioned, Morrow kind of showed a little bit more of his true nature, or at the very least, showed the lengths that he is willing to go to in order to get these specimens back. And he's willing to go to pretty drastic lengths to the point where he's willing to threaten a child's mother and blackmail a 12-year-old kid. Like he didn't even care, didn't even bat an eye. So yeah, we're seeing some of these characters' true natures get revealed a little bit more. But I guess my question for you, PM, and for you guys in the chat, or for anybody who wants to answer, what do you guys think is going to happen with this predicament here between Morrow and Slightly? Will Slightly successfully get an alien egg to Morrow? Yes or no?
And that's a great question.
Or the
That's a
infected human. Will he successfully get a human infected and bring him to Morrow? Yes or no? Think will he succeed?
Yeah, I believe that Morrow told him the instruction is get a human. Get a
Mhm.
human to be
Get a
infected.
human
And
infected.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Morrow told him, don't worry about the person. I will make them as comfortable as possible.
Yeah,
It's safer for Morrow to be around a human that's about to burst out a xenomorph while he gets them to the company that can then handle them.
yeah,
So that makes sense. Will he be able to do that? I do not think so.
yeah.
Kirsch is seeing everything happen. He's
True.
listening in. He knows what's happening. I believe that Kirsch will stop this. I
Mhm.
like the way that he kind of is not interfering
Letting it play out a bit. Yeah.
because it's very mysterious.
Hmm.
Why is he not interfering? The
Yeah.
only reason why I think he's not interfering is that he wants Morrow within grasp.
He wants to
He
draw
knows that
Morrow
Morrow,
out. Yeah.
oh yeah, he knows that
Totally.
Morrow is a problem for the company, for Prodigy,
Totally.
and for the synthetics, along with Boy Cavalier. So
Yeah.
maybe he wants them to come into the building to believe that he's getting a xenomorph and to, get rid of him. Then you get rid of him forever instead of having to fight him from afar.
Yeah. No, I think that makes perfect sense. If why else would Kirsch allow this to keep happening unless he was doing surveillance? He's conducting surveillance himself, seeing what Morrow is going to do, seeing what Morrow is going to ask Slightly to do, and then yeah, potentially look for that perfect moment where he can swoop in and capture Morrow. Because, like you said, he has to know that Morrow is going to stay incredibly dedicated to try and recovering these specimens. These specimens now belong to Kirsch and to Prodigy, as far as Kirsch is concerned. I love the whole metaphor where, this ship isn't a location, it's an object. It's a baseball. It got hit over the fence and it landed in the neighbor's yard. I'm the neighbor. The ship belongs to me now. So Kirsch is very much going to do whatever he has to protect these things, to keep them within Prodigy control. That is his programming at the end of the day. So yeah, I could totally see him just letting these events play out a little bit until he creates the perfect scenario where he can kind of grab Morrow and capture him. Because yeah, Morrow is, as long as Morrow is out there, he remains a threat to Prodigy, to the species getting stolen. Morrow will always be a threat until Kirsch can kind of get a handle on him. So yeah, I love that idea. I think that's the only thing that possibly makes sense as to why you continue to let this play out unless you're setting up a trap yourself. Absolutely. And again, he did say everything is a test. That is what being an adult is. Everything is a test. And yeah, I think that's a secondary part of it as well, where he's not only kind of setting up his own trap for Morrow, but I think it's to test Slightly, to see how far will Slightly go. How much is Slightly willing to do? What kind of person is Slightly ultimately? Let's test his character here. It is a test of Slightly's character too at the end of the day. Absolutely. Yeah, poor Slightly, so innocent, and I mean, well, children are easily manipulated. Especially something like this where Morrow, threatens his family. Especially when we heard earlier in the season, that was one of the few things that Slightly said that he would do something bad for if it meant protecting his parents, his loved ones. So we know that he has a very strong connection with his parents from the very beginning. So yeah, he might be very innocent, but unfortunately, very easy to manipulate. Very easy to manipulate.
Mhm.
But yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. How far is Kirsch going to let it go? Will he successfully capture Morrow? And which way will Slightly ultimately go? Will Slightly kind of have a crisis of conscience and realize he doesn't want to do what Morrow's telling him? Or is his fear for his mother going to be so great that he's going to do everything that Morrow says? I don't know, but I like the idea of Kirsch kind of killing two birds with one stone here, where on one hand, he's setting up a trap for Morrow by letting this
Mm.
play out. And on the second hand, he's also testing Slightly's character and seeing how far Slightly will go.
I love that. I love that idea. I think that's exactly what is happening. I love that idea. This is him getting rid of maybe a synthetic that is failing, right? If everything is a test and you are failing this test, you're more of a problem to us than you are an asset. There's something wrong with your code. You are
Mhm.
going against what you should be doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he tells them that. I think that's exactly, we go back to the question that he asked him. He asked them,
Mhm.
if I was doing something I shouldn't be doing, what would you do? Would you stop me?
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't answer the question. So I
No.
think that that is the whole thing on itself for the company. It's,
Mhm.
we are part of the company, but at the end of the day, if you're doing something wrong, you have to stop the other person, or you're going to bring the entire company down.
Mhm.
And since he didn't answer, I think that Kirsch is assessing, you are a problem. You are
Yeah.
way more of a problem than you are an asset. And so therefore I can get rid of two problems for Prodigy and for Boy Cavalier instead of just getting rid of one. At this
Mhm.
point, unfortunately, even though Slightly is a child, at this point, he's in cahoots with Morrow. Both of them are a problem. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, at the end of the day, he is still a liability. Slightly is a liability and a threat to the company now. Yes, he might be getting blackmailed. He might be in fear for his family's life, but it doesn't change the fact that he is a major security breach right now. He is a major threat. And with Kirsch being aware of that, again, I think it's going to be interesting to see how far Kirsch is going to let this go before he steps in. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. Um, and yeah, they can make an example out of Slightly. Maybe. I mean, and I could definitely see Boy going so far as to doing something like that. And like 100% would fit down to a T the kind of dark Peter Pan kind of influence that is behind Boy's character. Because some of the earliest versions of Peter Pan, again, the character was much darker. If you guys haven't seen my Peter Pan Alien Earth breakdown video, definitely check it out. I go in depth on how every single character on Alien Earth is modeled after a Peter Pan character, not simply just the Lost Boys and the hybrids. Every character. But one thing that's very interesting there is I could definitely see Boy going so far as to making an example out of one of the hybrids if they step too far out of line to keep the others from falling out of line. Because that is ultimately what Dark Peter Pan has done with some of his Lost Boys in the past as well. Some of the earliest versions of the character suggest that Peter Pan has actually killed some of the Lost Boys when they start to outgrow their adolescence. Peter Pan wants them to be children forever, and once they start to outgrow that a little bit, he's literally killed some of them off. There's also indications that he holds some of the Lost Boys hostage in some of the earliest versions of the character. So that definitely would fit right on par with Boy Cavalier's character here on Alien Earth, that he would have no problem making an example out of one of the hybrids.
Mm, I love that. I love that because we also see in this episode, we continue that really heavy. They're hitting us over the head with the Peter Pan
Oh
influence
yeah,
here.
yeah.
He's reading another excerpt. He's reading an excerpt about how scary Neverland can be at night. He seems to pick all of the terrifying parts of it, Boy Cavalier. And also, he tells Wendy, "You fought the crocodile." And he's so
Yes.
excited
And
about
now
that.
you
He's
can
like,
hear the clock.
"Wendy." Exactly. So he's excited at the prospect of reenacting parts of Peter Pan. I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to reenact that specific part where he makes an example out of one of them.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. That is perfect. Um, yeah. Fighting the crocodile, then being able to hear the clock, very kind of on par with Wendy fighting the xenomorph, and then being able to hear the xenomorph, even though she was starting to kind of hear him even before she fought the xenomorph. After she fought the xenomorph one on one, it seemed like it was like amplified. Like as soon as she woke up, like the connection was so much stronger. So I like that kind of metaphor there for Peter Pan fighting the crocodile and then hearing the clock. Um, but yeah, awesome. But yeah, could definitely see Peter. I could definitely see Boy making an example for sure. I want to see Octopus take out Boy. Ironically, he's so smart to have it controlled by something he tried to control. Yeah, I do think it would be a very perfect punishment for him as well. I mean, we talked a little bit about this a little bit earlier at the beginning of the stream, but I love the idea that I feel like they're already foreshadowing that the T. Ocellus will overtake Boy at some point in the series. When we see the scene with the T. Ocellus infecting the sheep in this episode, right after they find out that this thing is highly intelligent, Boy kind of gets its attention by throwing the ball at the wall, the ball at the glass, and it turns around and it starts to look at Boy. Boy goes super close at it and he kind of points to himself. And it just gave me the most eerie feeling that is going to be how Boy's story arc ends, with him getting infected and taken over by the T. Ocellus. I just feel like that would be a perfect ending for his character. And as you mentioned, PM, that would also fulfill the one thing he's wanted to fulfill the entire time. The one thing Boy has been looking for is to finally climb that mountaintop and have a discussion or a conversation with someone that actually kind of dazzles him. He wants to have that perfect conversation that has eluded him with a higher intellectual being. I think it would be a very fitting ending for Boy if this is how his character ended, with him getting taken over by this T. Ocellus, but then he finally gets to have that one conversation with this one superior being inside of his head. While this thing is now taking over him, he is getting what he wants in that final one conversation, but it also came at the cost of the T. Ocellus taking over his life and taking over his body, kind of forcing him to live eternally just in his own head. I think that could be a very interesting ending for Boy, for sure. And I think they foreshadowed it in this episode, like we were saying earlier, that one scene when you get that one very interesting scene between Boy when he's looking at the sheep when the T. Ocellus is inside of it. You get that very little interesting gesture of Boy kind of pointing to himself. Like, I'm the one, I'm the vessel you've been looking for, kind of thing, is what I was getting from it. Because I do think that's what the T. Ocellus is ultimately looking for. I think it's looking for the perfect vessel that can sustain it. We saw it when it was in the cat in the beginning of the season, and it seemed like the cat was breaking down, couldn't really fully sustain it. And then, of course, we're seeing it in the sheep here. And I think we're going to see something similar with the sheep, where the sheep is not going to be able to sustain the T. Ocellus indefinite forever. I think it's looking for that perfect host that can sustain it. And maybe that is a human host, maybe Boy himself.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love the way that you explained that. Also, if you're an intelligent being and you come to a planet that is not your planet, but you're intelligent enough to look at the interactions, because the sheep is just standing there looking at the interactions between everybody who's in the room. You would
Studying
pick,
them. Yeah.
yeah, you would pick the person that's in power, right? You don't just want the regular basic
Right.
Joe down the road. You
Yeah.
want the company's leader, because
Yep.
then that gives you more power, right? You go straight to the top. So it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Mhm. No, I mean, you make a really good point. That's a very good point. If this T. Ocellus is as intelligent as it appears to be, and again, we saw that Timothy Olyphant's character, Kirsch, has monitoring the brainwaves of the sheep, seeing how low they were, very low level intelligence. And as soon as the Teocellus took over the sheep's body, boom, they just completely spiked, indicating that, holy cow, this thing is very intelligent, much more intelligent than a damn sheep. So yeah, I think it would make perfect sense that if it was going to take over anybody, Boy would be the perfect host for it, 100%, and would give it all the freedom it would need to really do anything. And it would show us as the audience just how intelligent this thing really is, because that's what I want to see. Like, how intelligent is the Teocellus really? And we're really not going to get a good idea of that until it's inside a human and we see how well it can pass off as a regular human. Is it that smart where it can blend in? That's when we're going to find out how smart this thing really is, once it finally infects a human. And I think Boy's going to be that human. I think this episode very much foreshadowed Boy getting possessed by this thing by the end of the season. But we shall see. Was I the only one who found it weird when Boy said he wanted to play with Curly? Yeah, I didn't like the dialogue there either, Samuel. It was a little bit weird. It was a little bit weird. I mean, it's like, I'm going to give you all these books and all these recordings and stuff to study, and then you can come back and we'll play. It's like I get they're trying to hype up the Peter Pan aspect, like where Boy is this kind of Peter Pan-esque character, this eternal child, always wants to play. But yeah, it was a little weird. It just sounded a little bit weird, especially knowing that he's saying this to a 12-year-old mind that was put into this mechanical body, a 12-year-old. So a little creepy. Probably wouldn't have said play myself. I would have said, study these things and come back and I'll quiz you, kind of thing. Like, it sounded a little weird.
Yeah, Samuel, great point. I did not like it, and it did stand out. As you're watching, it stands out. It stands out because, I think in a way, it's dark. It's dark, but the world is a dark place. This show is a metaphor for the life of children, what children go through, children's motivation, what happens to children, right? It's a metaphor for that. We are seeing two adults, not just Peter Pan saying lines like this and trying to triangulate the girls into a fight, but also we are seeing Morrow blackmail slightly a child. He
Yeah.
didn't begin by being straight up evil. Mara
Mhm.
began by saying, everybody needs a friend. Do you want to be
Yeah.
my friend?
Yeah.
Also, very creepy dialogue. Very
Yeah.
creepy dialogue.
Yeah.
So he began by pretending to be friends so that he could get closer to Slightly. And then he started to manipulate him, telling him, do you remember our conversation? Do you want to
Mhm.
be a hero or do you want to be a villain? Every child wants to be a hero, or most children. Most children want to be good, they want to be loved, and they want to be heroes.
Mhm.
So he is grooming Slightly to
Oh
do
yeah.
his bidding.
Yeah. Oh
So,
yeah.
in a way, it's a metaphor for the life of children on earth and everything that they go through. They go through so many things, dark at times. But I also didn't like that dialogue with Morrow. I'm very disappointed.
Yeah, the Mara one didn't bother me as much. Like, thinking back on it, I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird, but I feel like he's at least attempting to try and speak like as a child would. But the Boy one was like really, it stood out so much for me. You can come back and we can play. Like, what the fuck? What are you talking
No,
about, bro?
no,
No,
no.
no, 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 no,
Stop
no,
it.
no. Just sounded weird. But we shall see what is going to happen. Yeah, I hope it takes over Boy, and Boy finds out it's only as smart as a second grader. No disrespect to second graders. Oh, of course not. No disrespect to second graders at all. And yeah, creepy. I think creepy is kind of the point for Boy. Absolutely. Like, it is meant to be creepy. That wasn't by accident. Like, that scene was very much by design. It's meant to come off as creepy. I just don't think it was the right choice narratively. Personally, I think he could have come off creepy with the dialogue being a little better. But you're 100% right. Creepy was the point there. Absolutely. However, I also think he is really meant to play like kids, not in a terrible way, it seems to imply. I mean, he's very, I mean, he seems like a kid himself, too, Boy. Like, in many ways, Boy does act just like a 12-year-old kid like the rest of them. I mean, he's always in his pajamas. He's always barefoot. He's always, we see the way he acts. He's a child. He still is a child. And yeah, I mean, you can see it why he's kind of clung to this Peter Pan persona so deeply. It's the eternal child, the child that doesn't want to grow up, the kid that does not want to become an adult. And that is kind of how I see Boy. I mean, I feel like that's kind of how they're portraying his character to be, that eternal child that just does not want to grow up. All he wants to do is play with his toys and, be in control. And that's really all he cares about.
Yeah, and let's talk about Boy Cavalier. Let's talk about him. So I did some, research on him. FX put out a video where they let you see a little bit of the computer. There's a cat running around. He presses
Yes,
some keys.
that's right.
They give us a little bit of a biography. So Boy Cavalier is said to have started Prodigy at 6 years old. 6 years old. So that's, he's a child. Then he had an accident. They say that at 15 years old, he had an accident in his vehicle. After that, he threw himself into his work, right? Um, Grieving a death. But they don't tell us who died. They just said grieving a death. And a lot of people are suspecting maybe it was his parents. He was in a car crash with his parents.
Yeah.
He was only 15 years old. And so that can make him reject the idea of parents so that he could find comfort in, this Peter Pan. I'm always going to be a child. I don't need parents. Peter Pan was happy without his parents. So maybe he's just so traumatized. He got stuck at
Yeah.
15 years old.
Yeah.
Super smart, but he's stuck at 15 years old. We
Yeah.
see a little bit of the dialogue where he says, "Oh, I understand why you don't like them. Brothers are terrible.
Yeah.
So are parents, and especially mothers." So we see him tell us that that's very much what he's thinking. If I'm Peter Pan, I'm happy. He doesn't have parents, and neither do I, and I don't need them.
Mhm. 100%. No, no, I 100% agree with you. I think that's a very apt kind of way of describing what we're seeing from him. And I like the bio that we get from him in that. It's nice to get some extra, behind the scenes kind of background information on the characters that maybe you don't hear as dialogue in the actual episode, but you can see in other ways like that. So I love that. And yeah, we learned that he created the company super young, and there was this big tragedy. And yeah, I 100% definitely appears that it was most likely his parents or his guardians. Maybe he was adopted. It was his adoptive parents, whatever. His real parents, guardians. Seems like whoever was raising him clearly died. And yeah, maybe that's why he has been just so clung to this Peter Pan persona. Maybe his parents read Peter Pan to him as a child every night before he went to bed. And now he is in turn reading it to his children, reading it to the hybrids every night before they go to bed, continuing that tradition. So yeah, it very much explains why he's so tied to the Peter Pan persona, but why he has remained that kind of childhood, youthful, immature kind of bratty kind of self even into his adulthood. He just never matured past that age, kind of like Victor on From.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. Just like Victor on From. And we see Victor, right? He also was very creepy. So great connection because that connects us to Zombie Italian's point. And I feel like a lot of the viewers, when they hear the dialogue, they're gonna feel creeped out by him telling Curly, "Hey, you come back and we play." Victor also was very much looked at as sort of a predator. When the show started, when From started, and they saw that interaction of him wanting to talk to Ethan, to
Mhm.
color with Ethan, it got to the point where Jim hit him, right? He punched him because he was thinking, "What's wrong with you?" Right? They come off as creepy, but in reality, they're just children. they're stuck as children, right? When that bad thing happened, they're stuck at that age. For him, it's 15. For Victor, I don't know, he looked to be about 7.
Yeah, 7, 10 around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the trauma is just so, heavy for such a young child mind that isn't fully developed yet and isn't quite fully capable and equipped of dealing with these kind of deeper complex emotions like this kind of grief. Yeah, it can completely change you, and it can kind of keep you kind of the record kind of stuck, while everything else continues to spin. His mind is kind of stuck in that 10, 15-year-old self, whether it's Victor or Boy. They're stuck reliving their trauma, and they have clung to their childhood as a way of coping with that. And that very well could be Boy. This Peter Pan persona is probably his way of coping with his parents' death, and why he's so
Mhm.
tied to it. And again, why he's modeled his whole company from Peter Pan. I mean, the very research station they're at right now is Neverland Island Research Station. He's got all of the hybrids named after the Lost Boys. He's got Peter Pan playing on the prompter in the freaking operating room. Like, it's very ingrained into who he is. It's not something that he just likes. It's part of his very identity at this point. And he's making it part of their identity now by literally giving them names of Lost Boys in Peter Pan. And again, going so far as to reading it to them almost every night before they go to sleep, probably like his parents read it to him.
Yeah. Hey, I wouldn't be, that's a great point. Excellent point. He is obsessed with Peter Pan. I would not be surprised if the blonde hair and blonde eyebrows that Kirsch has are because he wanted a Tinkerbell. He needed a Tinkerbell. And
Yeah,
so, it would very much be him.
yeah.
He's trying to recreate the world of Peter Pan in his real life. So he needs a Tinkerbell. All the more reason to dye Kirsch's hair blonde and give
Hmm.
him a pixie cut.
Yeah, literal pixie cut and blonde hair like pink, like Tinkerbell, and he's got even his own shadow in Ainz, the right
Mhm.
hand man, the strong conciliary, the enforcer type for the company, the dark kind of small devil on his shoulder, to Peter Pan's brighter side, the more darker animalistic side to Peter Pan very much is played almost to a T by Ainz. And I love how during like the first 2 or 3 episodes, just about every single time we see Ainz, he's positioned right behind Peter Pan, right behind Boy, exactly like a shadow would, like where a shadow would be cast. So I feel like Ainz is very much Peter Pan's shadow. Boy is very much Peter Pan, and yeah, Kirsch is very much Tinkerbell. And we see all the other characters, all of the Lost Boys. Wendy is Wendy, Captain Hook is Morrow, and even down to Wendy's brother Joe being similar to Wendy's brother John in the book as well. Every single character on this show is modeled after a Peter Pan character in some
Mhm.
small way or large way. And yeah, I think it's interesting to see potentially why he's so ingrained. It's so ingrained in his very DNA. Again, it's not just something he likes; it is part of his identity, and he's made it part of everybody's identity around him as well.
Mhm. Yeah, and that explains if you I put the link in the chat for Jeremy's video explaining all the Peter Pan connections. But if you don't know about Tinkerbell, do some research on Tinkerbell, guys.
Very
we
similar
were
to Kirsch.
questioning we
Yeah.
were questioning exactly why do they have this interaction. Kirsch is a robot. Why is he acting in a way that a robot would not act? And why do they have this interaction between Boy and Kirsch that doesn't seem to be master and robot? They have an interaction that seems like Kirsch is acting on its own. He's not
Hmm.
super respectful. He's not very respectful to Boy, and yet he works for him. And
Yeah.
he's not acting like a robot. But when you read on Tinkerbell, this is the interaction between Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. It's
Yeah.
very bratty. There's animosity there, and yet Tinkerbell always works to better whatever Peter Pan is doing.
Yeah.
He's always going to, like, she will save him at the end.
Yeah.
even though she fights him all the way through. So
Mhm.
very much that sort of thing.
Mhm. Very much, and even down to some of their kind of other characteristics, like like Tinkerbell, her very name, Tinkerbell. She's very good at tinkering with things. She's a skilled inventor. She's very skilled at fixing things. This is very much Kirsch as well, where he's the one that is experimenting on all of these alien life forms. I mean, given that he's a synthetic with a supercomputer for a brain, naturally he's capable of fixing and inventing nearly anything he wants. So yeah, there's tons of, even though it might not seem like it, beneath the surface there's tons of similarities between Kirsch and Tinkerbell, just like all these other characters and their Peter Pan counterparts. But yeah, I think it's like you said, it's not something they're hiding. They're very much hitting us over the head with this Peter Pan influence. At times it's a little too heavy-handed, and at times it works okay. But they're definitely not hiding it. It's not something that they're doing subtly. It's right there. And speaking of right there, we got Wall Saint Tech for 234. Thank you so much, Wall Saint Tech. I like redheads, but Nibs done gone kooky. Yeah, Nibs is not doing so well, to say the least. Nibs is, I think she's going to continue to decline. I mean, we talked about this last week when we first started seeing the signs of her cracking, the signs that something very seriously wrong is happening with her. And here this week, that got turned up to about 11 super quick, with her now going just full on baddie, believing that she is pregnant, and even worse, that it's an immaculate conception inside a synthetic body that is incapable of growing life. So this is going to get out of hand very quick. I think Nibs is going to become very dangerous. We saw how dangerous she potentially could have become just in this episode alone, when she lunges at the doctor and could have easily just killed her and snapped her in half without even realizing it. Because again, these hybrids, yes, they know that they have synthetic bodies, so they know that they have superhuman strength. But knowing you have superhuman strength and being able to kind of control that is two very different things. I definitely think they're still very young and at the point where they probably don't fully know their strength or fully know how to control it yet. So they could be very dangerous if they start flying off the handle. A broken 12-year-old child's mind inside a weapon of mass destruction is not a good idea. So this is going to get ugly between Nibs and whoever else. I mean, there's even one scene in the trailer that shows Nibs ripping something apart and just seeing a bunch of blood just splatter all over her face. So at some point, she's going to kill something or kill someone in a very violent manner, it looked like, if the trailer was any indication. So this is going to get very bad before it gets worse, before it gets better for Nibs.
Mm. Yes, thank you, Wall Santek. And if you like redheads and you like Nibs, can I interest you in a Smiley? I believe he's also a redhead. Do you like
Yeah.
him? Some Smiley's also nuts. He's also cookie as can be. Um, right? Oh my God. You scared me. I was staring at the screen. Ah.
Good old Smiley. Oh,
You scared
man.
me. That was a jump scare. That was a jump scare. Oh my God.
Oh, man. Can't wait for that to come back. That'll be great. That will be great. But yeah, if you're into redheads, Smiley is readily available and back. I'm sure he's looking for some company now that he's officially back too. But yeah, Nibs, it's going to get bad with Nibs for sure. And yes, where's the emergency shut off? That was one thing I was wondering during this whole episode as well, Zombie, right there with you, because we see that they have all of these other protocols. I mean, they're able to remotely turn off her hearing from afar. I mean, we learned that in this episode that Kirsch ordered her hearing to get shut off to stop her from hearing all of the kind of the aliens communicating with her. So you mean to tell me they're capable of shutting off her hearing remotely, but there's not a single button that just shuts them down? I mean, there should be some kind of quick panic button that all of these doctors should have super quick access for. The second Nibs lunged at Dr. Dame, Dr. Dame should have had something on her person that she could have instantly pressed that just shut the thing down. So yeah, I was wondering that too. I mean, they can
Mm.
shut off these things hearing, but they can't shut them off as quick. Come on.
And I like that. Okay, to be honest with you, I like that because I tend to be on the side of the synthetics or the robots or the aliens, anything not human. But I
Mhm.
like that if if this is your consciousness, you don't want somebody to have that power that they could just turn you off or punish you
Mhm.
for doing something that they don't like.
Or
You
record
are,
everything you
after
see.
all, yes, after all, you are a consciousness, right? You might even
Mhm.
have a soul. So the fact that somebody could just punish you or utilize the shut off system whenever you are not behaving the way that they want you to behave, that makes me nervous. So I do like that they seem to have some agency, that you can't just unplug them just because you don't like what they're doing or because you think that they're dangerous. She kind of gave her a timeout, sent her to her room and
Mhm.
said lock the room.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I mean, I feel like she handled the situation as well as she possibly could have, I suppose, in in that manner where, she handled her pretty well. She was kind of going along with her kind of delusion there for a minute and not just outright shutting it down and kind of telling her, no, you're not pregnant. Who knows how bad that could have gotten. So she played it well. I was impressed. But yeah, this is going to get bad. This is going to get very bad. Again, I keep going back to that one little scene in the season three, in the season one trailer before the series dropped, and you just see that one shot of just this blood just spraying right in Nibs's face as she rips, as it what appears to be her ripping something apart. And it's definitely
Mhm.
not a synthetic or a robot that she's ripping apart because you see very much red blood just spray all over her after she rips this thing open. So this is going to get bad. I get the
Mm.
feeling Nibs is going to kill someone in a very violent manner, someone or something. I don't know. Maybe it'll even be the sheep. Maybe she'll end up taking out the sheep. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, tinfoil. Let's go tinfoil theory here. Nibs believes that she is pregnant. She feels something, right? And I tend to believe her. If she feels that something is off, then something is off. If the teocellus put in something uh, in her, right? Maybe it's eggs
Mhm.
or whatever it is, a material that would reproduce, and she does end up, quote unquote, giving birth, but it's a teocellus that comes out and
Oof.
not a baby. I could see her ripping that thing apart, being so
Oh yeah.
angry, so mad that this is not what she thought
Yeah.
it was, and her ripping it apart, even from her own self, from her own physical self.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Could totally see that being the case where she thinks she's giving birth to this immaculate conception and she sees it's a little fucking squid baby. Yeah, I could see her ripping that thing right apart, like super fast. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Yeah, whatever she rips apart definitely seems to be of, you know, uh, you- uh, of organic material. It's definitely not a synth or anything like that. It's something living for sure. But we'll see. Oh, here it is. I found it. I found it. I found it. I found it. All right, here we go. Let me share this. Stop sharing that. Let me share this. This is the shot that I was talking about, ladies and gents. That is in the season one trailer. Let's see. Let me slow this down. Playback speed 125. All right. Check this out. Look at her ripping something apart and the blood just splattering all over her face.
Hmm.
Rip something apart. Like what
Wow.
did you just rip apart, Nibs? What
Well, I like
the
that she's looking down. So it
yeah.
is something that she is. I'm telling you, it could be the teocellus. She has both hands too. She takes it, rips it apart, and it's. Hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe it is
Crazy,
PTSD.
right? Like, it looks pretty violent. Looks pretty
Her
violent.
eyes.
Look at her
The
eyes.
actress is doing a great job at portraying the trauma. Her eyes have changed. Um, they're huge. She's always like glazed over, but always like
Mhm.
on alert. So she's doing a great job. And she still looks like that
Phenomenal.
in this scene.
She does. No, 100% right. And yes, yeah, this is the cage that they're all in. I imagine, I don't know what episode that takes place in, if it's like episode 5 or 6, but we see in the trailer of In the Weeks to Come, we see Wendy and like all of the hybrids sitting in some kind of like jail cell. But there must be some kind of human in there with them, or some kind of human eventually enters there with them, because this does look like the same cell that they were in. Yeah. So who is going to be the unlucky one? Or like you said, is it going to be the Tio Celis? Is this going to be her trauma coming to a head where she just rips the thing apart? I don't know. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting scene. I can't wait to see what she's ripping apart here. This is going to be good. It's going to be good.
Hmm.
Again, I mean, I'm enjoying the show. I am enjoying the show up until this point. Yes, it does have some problems here and there, that are noticeable at times. Very much will be the first to point that out. But I'm at least enjoying it. It's definitely not a show that I am hate watching by any mean. I'm watching every episode, looking forward to seeing where the storyline is going to go. Looking forward to seeing some new creatures and how these things work. Still want to see this Species 37. What is this mysterious Species 37? I can't believe we're 4 episodes in and we haven't even seen it yet. So hopefully we get a glimpse of that next week in episode 5. But overall, enjoying Alien Earth, and looking forward to seeing where the second half of the season goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it perfect? By no means is it perfect. It's
Mhm.
not going to be a from for me.
Yeah.
It's not going to be something that I love and I don't see the mistakes or the issues in it. But what else are we going to watch currently of what is actually currently playing? This is a great show, and Foundation,
Yeah.
right?
Two
It's
best
either
things
this or
on.
the Institute. Yeah, this or
Ugh,
the Institute. It's so not to bash the Institute, but
the
I
Institute was
really
bad.
like yeah, it was so bad.
It
The
was bad.
finale, so bad.
It was bad. Yeah.
So bad. Chat, did you watch The Institute? And if you did watch The Institute, did you watch the finale? Let us know, chat. But no, I love this show. I love the children. I love how they have incorporated things that you never would have thought to incorporate into, the alien empire that it is. Like Peter Pan. Who would have thought that, right? It's interesting. I like it.
Hmm. Yeah, they're doing some interesting things. That's one thing I will say about this show. I mean, like for every interesting thing they're doing, they're also doing something that's uninteresting and kind of annoying. But they're doing it is still a show that I am enjoying watching. And yeah, like I like how we're getting a pretty interesting mix of, kind of trying to honor what came before. At least in the first 2 or 3 episodes, it very much felt like they were kind of trying to honor the original Alien kind of franchise while also building on top of it and doing their own thing. Now they're definitely a little bit more into the realm of just kind of doing their own thing and taking little aspects of all of the other Alien films and sprinkling them in. Like Wendy communicating with the xenomorphs, which is by no means an original idea. We've seen this in another Alien film before where someone also was able to communicate with the xenomorphs. So it's not like these are just new and original ideas, but they're definitely kind of doing their own thing, but taking inspiration from almost every Alien film that's ever existed. We can see little kind of nuggets from in this series. But overall, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going to go. And yeah, in terms of right now, there's not a whole lot of really good shows on currently. Like this is on. This is pretty good. Foundation season 3 has been pretty fun. Did not like the Institute myself. I thought the Institute was a really disappointing show for me personally. I know a lot of people are watching Dexter Resurrection and enjoying it right now. I have not seen that myself yet. Chief of War I am watching, and it's not bad. I mean, Chief of War is okay. It's not bad. It's about what you would expect, with your kind of Jason Momoa in this kind of role, like the show is kind of about what you would expect. Nothing super, super deep, but can be entertaining at times with some good fight scenes and some good action. So Chief of War isn't too bad. But yeah, there's just not a whole lot of like phenomenal shows on currently right now. But looking forward to seeing the rest of Alien Earth. Definitely looking forward to the rest of Foundation. I will actually have my Foundation episode 8 trailer breakdown up on the channel tomorrow. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And then I will definitely have my next Alien breakdown up on the channel either tomorrow or the next day, the latest. I'm going to try to get them both out tomorrow. But overall, looking forward to it. Zombies giving it a 7 out of 10 overall for the season so far. For the season so far, I would probably give it around maybe a 7 out of 10, maybe 2. Like this episode in particular, I would probably give this episode similar. Yeah, 7 out of 10, 6.5, 7 out of 10. I would probably give this episode. But enjoying the series and looking forward to where it will go. What about you, PM? Before we get out of here, what rank would you give episode 4? And let us know in the chat as well if you guys have a rating for episode 4, with 1 being horrible and 10 being perfect. What would you guys give episode 4? Observation.
Well, I was thinking 7.5, but then I am reminded, Jeremy, that they said that this episode 4 was going to change everything,
Yeah.
that there was going to be something so mind-blowing that it was going to change the second half of the show. So when I'm reminded of the fact that they made that promise and I don't feel like they delivered on that promise, I'm going to give it a 6 because I was showing up expecting what they said it would be.
Yep.
It was a great episode, but it wasn't what you promised.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they made promises.
Yeah. Yeah. All of the hype that was surrounding episode 4 coming into the season, where that, just about every single early access review was always all talking about episode 4 is the big episode where something huge happens that changes the course of the show. We did not get that. Like Zombie says, mind not blown in any capacity. So that takes a little bit of the points away from me as well. That probably, instead of me giving it a 7.5 or a 7, I'd probably stick to like a 6.5. Because when you hype an episode up and you make it seem like it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and then you deliver just a regular average episode, that's a little disappointing. If all of the hype wasn't around it, this episode probably would have gotten a little bit of a higher rating from me. But considering it was hyped up to Kingdom Come, that this episode 4 was going to be this big episode, that knocks some points off for me as well. So that's a very good point, PM. But again, overall, still enjoyed the episode. Again, was not blown away by it, but enjoyed it nonetheless, and still looking forward to seeing where the series is going to go. Susan gives it a 0. I don't think Susan's even watching it.
Hey, Susanna telling. If there is something that you can count on, is on Susanna telling it like it is. I always enjoy talking to you, Susanna telling. And we pay attention, guys. We remember every single one of you, and we pay attention to everything you say. Yeah,
we try.
So that is very much Susan's style. But like you said, I don't think she's even watching it. Are you watching it, Susan? Is it?
I don't know if Suzanne's even watching it, but she's giving it a 0 nonetheless. Millennium's giving it a 6.5 for episode 4. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well, right around there, like a 6.5. That's kind of where I'm at. Again, I probably would have given it a 7 if all of the hype wasn't around it, that it was supposed to be this massive big episode. If that hype wasn't there, probably could have squeaked out a 7 maybe. But yeah, I can't go higher than 6.5. I gave this episode a 6 out of 10 look back, but the season is 7 out of 10 overall. And I'm kind of a similar mind in terms of like the season overall, at least like around a 7 out of 10, maybe. Yeah, that sounds about fair. I'm not watching it. That's why it gets a 0. Yeah, see, I knew it. I knew it. Weakest episode so far, 7, says Samuel. Okay, interesting. I think episode 3 was the weaker one, personally, for me. But I could definitely understand people, anyone thinking that this one might have been a little bit weaker as well. Episode 1 was the best episode so far up until this point. Like, episode 1 was good. Like, it was good. So much to the point where I really wish they would have just aired episode 1 by itself and they didn't air 1 and 2 all at once. I hate when shows that only have 6, 7, 8 episodes decide to air 2 episodes at once. It's like, you're already only going to be on for 8 weeks to begin with. Why air 2 and cut it down to 7 weeks right away? So I wish they would have just released episode 1 by itself, because episode 1 by itself is a very strong standalone episode and a really good start to the series. And then episode 2 kind of just turns it into your average alien chase scene, which is okay, I guess. But coming off of how good episode 1 was, I wish it would have just stood alone by itself the first week. But for me, episode 1 was the best episode so far. But again, I'm enjoying it. I did enjoy 4 a little bit better than 3, but not by a whole lot. Not by a whole lot. But that is going to do it for us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us for our live Alien Earth after show discussion for episode 4, Observations. And of course, we will be live again next Tuesday right here on the channel, same time, same place, right after the next episode airs. And we will see where episode 5 is going to take us. And of course, we will be live every Sunday night as well, doing our From live stream, the Fromville Hour, and we have been diving into all of your theories from our Discord. There's so many theories that you guys have been putting in the Discord for From season 4, and we are trying to get to as many of them as we possibly can. So this Sunday we will be continuing the Fromville Hour as we dive back into the best fan theories for From season 4 straight from our Discord. But until next time, stay safe out there, ladies and gents. And we will see each and every one of you on the next one.
Wendy, can you tell me what happened?
I woke up and I heard it. It was screaming.
I need your help. Get something and bring it to me. An egg.
I think we need to think about what's going to happen if this whole thing goes to hell. I'm worried. I mean, if we did this wrong, best case, we got a bunch of AIs running around thinking that they're human. Worst case, we killed 6 kids.
Do you hear that? They're talking to me.
When a hostile alien species decides to speak, one needs to ask why.
They're experiments, Dan.
That's what we do. We study.
Like you study us.
A world of infinite potential.
There's a feeling you get when the monsters come. Maybe you're feeling it now.
She's just a kid.
Keep telling yourself that. They shouldn't be here. Species from other worlds. Millions of years old. Killers.